Hello everyone, and welcome to another Patron Appreciation Special. This is my lovely wife, Mrs. Thomas. And call her Aisha. I guess I always say Mrs. Thomas for the thing. It's like her stage name.
Like a stripper name?
Like a stripper name. I didn't want to say stripper name because I thought that would be sexist.
That's a boring stripper name.
Mrs. Thomas? I always thought that was, this is going to be somewhat of a deviation, and maybe this is a little bit more information than people want to know. At least some of the audience, I would imagine some audience probably want to hear it. But I thought names like Mr. Thomas or Mrs. Thomas in like a sexual sphere is pretty badass. Now, I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's because of like a teacher thing, but if I went to somebody who was like a stripper or somebody who was into BDSM or something like that, Mrs. Thomas would terrify me. I think it's because it's like it puts you back into the mindset of like a child, almost like a principal, or like when you were kids and all of the teachers were named Mrs. something or Mrs. that. I think that's what it is.
It's like a submissive kind of.
Yeah, it's this dominance thing of saying role. If you have to call somebody else Mr., it puts that person in a submissive role. I don't know. Too much information.
Right,
maybe I thought far too much into that. But no, I think it's.
I hear you. Let's
I hope everyone is.
Minutes to get.
Yeah. All right. Let me make sure that's straight.
Give us a couple minutes to check on some.
It still looks a little grainy, but that's okay. Yeah, but I hope everyone is doing okay today. It's a Sunday Patron Appreciation. We're thinking about moving the time to 1:30 because that seemed to be the time we hit. We get into these little weird technical stuff at the very end where we're trying to make this work, like getting the camera and all that, because it has to be reset up after I do my show. How are you doing today? Mrs. Thomas has been ill. I have cured Mrs. Thomas of her illness.
Well, I'm actually not going to say that's a lie.
Explain.
I am feeling.
Wait, just so you're
Wait,
not.
I'm going to.
You're not going to say that that's a lie.
I'm not going to say that that's a lie.
That's a double negative.
I'm not going to call that a lie.
I know that's somewhat of a double negative.
That's not a double negative.
Well, lie is somewhat of a negative untruth. It's like a non-truth.
Can I finish saying what I'm saying?
I'm not going to say that that's not true.
I'm not going to say that you lied.
I'm not going to say. I'm saying lie inherently is not true. It's a negative.
Wait, I understand what you're saying, but that's
I guess I'm
not
asking,
a double
why
negative.
do you need to say that double negative?
Because I'm not going to. I don't want to say, yeah, that you're true, or yeah, that was true. I like the way that I said it. That's the way I wanted to say it.
I'm just saying that you're saying it that way because you don't want to give a compliment. It hurts
if you would take a moment to be quiet,
go for it.
I was going to say something positive, but let me word it the way that I'm going to word it.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to say that's a lie because actually this time, the reason that I'm feeling better is probably largely attributed to what you told me to do. So actually for like the last month, I've been having a lot of stuff going on. I guess we'll go into this while we wait for some more people to join. But I had some stomach stuff going on. They weren't really sure what it was. They found out. I'm not going to go into all of that. But Jamal said, while we were there, the doctor recommended, light meals, not eating as much. And so Jamal asked the doctor, well, would a liquid diet help? And the doctor was like, yeah. And so when we got home, Jamal was like, so you're going to start a liquid diet? And I was like, fuck no. Yeah. And it sounded really good. And I think like hours in, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
I even agreed to eat one meal a day to help. Like to say, I'll eat one meal a day to go along with it because I wanted to make sure that,
Yeah, and in solidarity.
In solidarity, that's right.
But I will say, I have been on the first couple of days I was liquid only, and then like going into the third and fourth day I had like some soup for dinner, and then I added in like soup that had a little bit of food. I've been keeping it light, mostly liquid, and my pain has pretty much gone away.
I've cured your pain.
So we're still not sure if the actual issue itself has been resolved. I still have a couple more doctor's visits to go to so they can figure out what exactly happened. Is it going to happen again? Is it still going on or what? But I can say that at least due to his suggestion of a liquid diet, I am mostly pain-free. I was on narcotics, and to give an idea of how intense this was, I was on narcotics every day for like a week.
Yeah, she's a lot.
And I almost went to the ER a couple times because of how much pain I was in. The last patron appreciation show that we did, I had to leave in the middle of the show because I started feeling bad. So
she went and fell out.
I didn't go and fall out. I went and like took some medicine or something. But yeah, put that back the other way. I don't like that.
Right here.
Yeah. So we've got a couple people here. Gate M, I can't read that. There's a lot of names. It says, "What's up, fam?" Winkle the Burning Bro is here. Marsha Smith. We got a couple people tuned in. So
Gamer.
Is that what that says? Gamer for life.
Yeah,
I see it now.
Yeah.
It took me a minute. So
what's
hi,
going on, guys? I hope everybody's good on this Sunday. We have an awesome show again for today. As you noticed, the last few patron appreciation shows have been awesome. In part because Mrs. Thomas is here, and I don't have to say it is not because Mrs. Thomas is here. I can just say I can attribute that to her and a positive phraseology.
You're a better person than I am. That's fine.
I can attribute it to her in a better phraseology. It doesn't hurt me to give her a compliment. But no, they have been really good shows. I honestly, when I look back on the shows have been really, really good. And so, not to mention, we've had a huge crowds here on those days. So, it's like if it runs with it, go for it. And as long as you enjoy it, if it was something that you hated, I don't think you do, and I necessarily wouldn't ask you to do it.
We've been having a good time. I will say, though, on the line of how much Mrs. Hollingsworth is helping to contribute, I do have to apologize to the patrons because, of course, as you know, this is Patron Appreciation Show. I got a new phone this week, and so my apps had to be updated. I didn't have access. I usually post the Patron Appreciation Show reminder in the middle of the week to give patrons the opportunity to give their topic suggestions. Well, I posted it Thursday because I posted while he was in DC for the radio show. I posted a link to that, and I posted the reminder for Patron Appreciation. And when I went today to check to see where the topics were, I couldn't find it. So somewhere on Thursday, my post didn't go up. So I apologize for patrons because they haven't had ample time to give their topics. So that's my bad. I can take credit for that.
I'll bring some cheese next time.
For my wine?
To go along with that wine.
You're not a comedian. Keep your day job. D Wonders, Iowa burner in the house. Welcome. And it is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's. Are we wearing
It's St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
We can't wear green. The green screen. We have an entire green
that's
back here.
right. I was going to say the green screen, but we're not wearing any green. But you can't see it. But we actually, and this is perfect. Perfect for St. Patrick's Day. We actually, today, for the first time doing the show, you can't see it. But we're using 2 green screens today
right.
in honor of, unintentionally, St. Patrick's Day. Because usually we use one, but we're trying to, this is still a work in progress. This segment of his show. He's been doing his show for forever, so that's like streamlined. But adding me in is, it seems like forever. Adding me in, we're still kind of working out the kinks. And so today, that's perfect. For St. Patrick's Day, we're using 2 green screens. Josephine, thank you so much. She says we love you both. So
thank you, Josephine.
So
do you want to tell people about Patron Appreciation and why we're doing it?
Yes. So today, of course, we're going to say it. Forgive me now because I will be saying 5 or 6 times throughout the show that this is the Patron Appreciation Show and why we do it. So just to give the spiel for the first time, Jamarl wanted to make an effort to give back or give the opportunity for patrons or everyone who supports the show to have kind of like their time or recognize, because without the show, without the people who support the show, it wouldn't be here. Right. And so once a week on Sundays, this is like our 4th Sunday. We've been pretty sticking to the date and the time-ish, 1 o'clock, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. And so on this day, we like to take the time out to give a shout out to people who support via Patreon, PayPal, Super Chat. We have people who send some gifts in, the emails. People send him email topics, conversation topics, all types of stuff. So this is the show to give thanks for all of that. And we also, for patrons, send out typically an announcement to allow them to give topic suggestions. So if you're a patron, make sure you log in the day or so before. And if you have a topic suggestion, then put your topic suggestion in, because that's where we pull from for today's content for this show. So this show is appreciation for everybody who supports the channel. And if you're giving or supporting in some way outside of Patreon, because some people give money through PayPal, just be sure that while you're giving your donation to include the topic that you'd like to have discussed. You can send an email separately. Yeah, and not everybody can contribute monetarily. So if you're here and you do enjoy the content, subscribe, come back, like the video, share the video, tell your mama, tell your friends. And that's my spiel. So you'll hear that a few times throughout the show, so I apologize. But we want to make sure that as we're going through the different topics, because this is probably going to be a couple hours long, that everybody kind of gets the spiel. So the topics for today, you want to just give a quick rundown of what we're going to talk about real quick?
Yeah, so there are probably going to be more topics than this as we float in and out of particular conversations. But as main topics, Trump's budget. Trump lied about cutting Social Security, Medicare, Social Security. That was his big pledge as a Republican. I am different than these other Republicans. I am not going to cut Social Security benefits. I'm going to court it off. Trump lied.
Next topic.
Trump lied. Bernie grills Russell Vought. Russell Vought is Trump's budget director. And Bernie Sanders gets him in this kind of, I guess, this hearing of sorts and eats him alive. Him alive. So I'm going to take a look. Oh, the third one, or the one after that, is actually something that I saw a lot of people talking about in my news feed. So I said, why don't we talk about that? Was New Zealand's response to the attack, and was it the Prime Minister? I'm getting turned around because I interjected. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. But their response to the massacre and talking about banning semi-automatic guns in New Zealand. So that's a topic that we're going to talk about. And then Lisa Page. P.O. Box shout-outs. We're going to do that now. We'll do that after you do the topics. We'll do that now. Lisa Page and the FBI case. I talked about this during the show, but I thought it may be interesting to get your feedback on it. Okay. China offers aid to Venezuela in order to cut back on the lights. The United States, most probably, was working with opposition forces within the country itself to have a massive blackout. China is sending aid to assist with that. You asked, why would China do that? What does China have to get out of it? We're going to talk about that. Save it. Okay. Surveillance capitalism. That one was put by Gardner. And I am going... Theresa May losing is one I want to talk about. And Samir Khan has a go at me on Twitter. That's interesting. So we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at that too, because I'm fascinated by it. And by saying "go," I'm being too strong. I'm being over dramatic with it. But she had questions, and those questions clearly had an intent. It wasn't like a question floating in a void of nothingness. It was, well, actually, a question does float in a void of nothingness to some degree, but it was on Twitter. Babe, we're gonna go. We'll take a look at all the Twitter and everything else. Slightly disparaging. That's all. So, and of course, the topics that we have, like he said, are going to be followed loosely. As everyone knows, there is a tendency to kind of divert a little bit, shift as whatever. Yeah, you tend to go in tangents. Your show, our segment. We do whatever we want, whatever, how it goes. Sean McCoy says, in honor of my birthday, I send you this. Thank you for giving a donation. Happy birthday. On your birthday. And happy birthday on St. Patrick's Day. You should say happy birthday first, because his birthday is more important. Then what? Well, I just want to say, it is more important. But I think it's even that more nice of Sean to give a donation on his birthday. So I wanted to emphasize that he's doing something for us on his birthday. That's why I worded it like that. Are you going to attack my wording all day? I mean, all segment? I just wanted to push on the psychology of sometimes those statements. And I'm feeling I feel some kind of way about the double negative thing in the beginning. That's okay. All. I can't get over it. Okay. We somebody said they're 10 minutes behind. We're still doing introductions. We wanted to give everybody time to get here, log in, get started, and everything else. So we talked about the segments. We said some shout outs to people. So the first thing that we're going to do for patron appreciation is, if you did not know, you can send stuff with P.O. Box. Stuff through the P.O. Box, a letter, a card, a thank you, a sticker, something your kid drew. You're an asshole. Donations, whatever you want to do, something that you want him to read, something you want him to look into. So that is in the description box in every one of his videos. So I received this thing from a Christian at one point, and it was like,
What
do you
was
remember
that?
this? It was like Jesus Saves, and it was the entire booklet of like, you got to give your life over to Christ, and
Did they
fight
give that
going
to
hell.
you in time? I mean, did they give that to you on purpose?
Yes, I think I think they did. I think they did.
Hint, hint.
It was like this heathen meets Jesus. Yeah.
All right, so I see somebody else said they're just in time. Yes, you are. We're doing a couple filler minutes to get everybody chance to get logged on before we start. So just a quick shout out to the things that we got on this round of checking the PO box. So feel free to send something. I would like to say that it is
Rigorously.
Yes, high five. That word checked by like FBI.
Every few weeks.
You mean I was joking with him because he was in DC and I was checking the PO box and I was like, "Do I open it?" He was like, "Open it." And I was like, "If it's some fucking anthrax or I explode, I'm haunting you and I'm finding who sent this." But yes, please send things in the PO box, or if you're interested, that is always in the description box. So for this one, you got a book from Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. So thank you. This is from Miss Sanchez, and we were a little late, I guess, picking this up in the Progressive Soapbox because it says Happy New Year.
The Isolation of Julian.
So it's got a postcard in it. Can you see that? It's got a postcard that says the isolation of Julian Assange is the silencing of us all.
Yes, it is.
And then you mentioned that this author for this book, so you guys check this out. We haven't gotten into this yet, opened this book up. But you mentioned that the author of this is something that, was it Luca Clemente has recommended before?
If I am not mistaken, that is one of the books that Luca Clemente has recommended. In fact, I thought that's who sent that book.
Yeah, because he was like, that name, was that Luca? And I was like, no, that's not Luca Clemente, but... Somebody said it was Sean.
Thank you very much.
So yes, thank you for that one. And then this one, I am not going to read this letter out loud. We did, but this was a letter that was sent from Harel. I'm going to mispronounce this name, but Barzilai. So thank you for that. And that was a couple of books, and he gave some quotes and some inspiration and stuff like that. And so he sent a couple of. This was actually in time for me, and I can't.
Yeah.
I think he did mention me feeling better. So he sent this to you, but maybe it was in time for me. But it's a detox book, and it's actually a vegan Indian cookbook, which we'll check them out. I will check them out.
She'd be more inclined to try
this. I used to be vegan for like 6 or 7 years. Or not vegan, vegetarian, don't get me lying.
Yeah.
Before he and I got together.
That was a bad
And the first like year or something like that, I got...
It fell apart.
Yeah, I was at a cookout at my brother's house and I was like, oh, I think I want like some chicken or something. So... but I do like to cook, so I will check that one out.
It is hard to remain a vegan when the other person's not. It's like there's an energy exchange. Somebody has to...
Well, I remember when I first went vegetarian, I remember my ex at the time gave me sausage that he said was like chicken sausage or something, and it was pork. And it made me so sick, and I was so upset, and I was like, this is not a fucking joke. Yeah. It's not, it's serious business. Of course, those times have changed.
I was pissed off at that too, though.
Yeah.
It's one thing if I make the choice to do it. It's another thing if you make the choice for me and lie to me in the pursuit, in order to make that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for intros, all that good stuff. Again, we'll do the patron spiels throughout the show, but we'll go ahead and get started.
I think your ex-boyfriend is a bit of an asshole.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I'll go there.
He was.
All right,
I can say that.
Yeah, that's not me being biased, but his misfortune
is your benefit.
Is my benefit. All right, so for the first one, Donald Trump, on the campaign trail, one of his big campaign pledges, what? Build the wall. We're going to build the wall. We're going to build the wall. That's the first one. Mm-hmm. That's probably the one that everyone knows him the most for. But if you also remember, he says, look, I'm not going to be like those other Republicans that are just trying to get there to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I'm not going to be like them. I'm going to be a different type of Republican, a more softer, compassionate Republican. And you can believe me, because I'm Donald Trump, and I'm a trustworthy person. I am different. I am not going to cut those programs. Okay. Donald Trump is cutting those programs. The budget that Donald Trump put out is going to cut the exact programs that Donald Trump said he is not going to cut. That makes Donald Trump a liar. And then goes into the process of lying about the fact that he lied about the campaign pledge. But again, he's a liar. He's a liar. It comes off pretty well. But it's not that everybody understood Donald Trump was truthworthy. Nobody, I don't know how many people thought that. But that's such an extreme campaign pledge. Like, that's so specific. I'm not going to cut these programs. Fair enough. That's very specific. Yeah. Like, if you lie, like, this is not like, I'm going to get the border wall built. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to build a border. Okay, well, he may have political opposition that prevents him from building the border. This is, am not going to do something that is clearly within my domain to do something about. I am going to stop myself from doing this, meaning I am just not going to do it. So it's not something he has opposition about. It's him making a choice to do X, Y, Z. And that's what he's doing. The wild part about this is, and to make this point for Trumpers to be like, well, I mean, he said he's not cutting the budget. The guy, Donald Trump's budget director, guy.
Oh, no.
No, Mick Mulvaney.
Oh, Vote. How do you pronounce his last name?
Mick Mulvaney. So, Michael Grunwood's profile of, budget director Mick Mulvaney for Politico starts with an extraordinary anecdote. Mick Mulvaney made the point that he tricked Donald Trump into cutting Social Security. That he literally tricked the president, a reality show host with no experience in budget and managing or any of these things.
Well, I imagine that wasn't a hard trick because you don't know what the hell half of this stuff is anyway.
I know, but that's so specific. And so Mulvaney is, so I'm saying this to say this. Even if you say, well, Donald Trump is not cutting those programs, Donald Trump's budget director, the guy who's working with Trump, said he tricked Trump into doing so. So making the point that even if you want to say Trump didn't do it, I'm making the point that people around Trump is making the point that Trump did do it. Michael Grunwald's Office of Management and Budget Director, Mick Mulvaney, profile of Office of Management Budget Director Mick Mulvaney for Politico starts with an extraordinary anecdote, seemingly sourced to Mulvaney himself, about how he tricked Donald Trump into violating his pledge to avoid proposing any cuts to Social Security. Now, I'm putting this article at the bottom for you to see it, but I'm just kind of making the point that it says, look, this is my idea on how to reform Social Security, the former South Carolina congressman began. No, the president replied, I told people I wouldn't do that. What's next? Well, here's some Medicare reforms, Mulvaney said. No, Trump repeated, I'm not going to do that. Okay, disability insurance. This was a clever twist. Mulvaney was talking about Social Security Disability Insurance Program, which, as the full name indicates, is part of Social Security. But Americans don't tend to think of Social Security and its 11-month beneficiaries are not senior citizens who tend to support Trump. Tell me about that, Trump replied. It's welfare, Mulvaney said. Okay, we can fix welfare, Trump declared. That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, in one sense, because, look, my point is saying that this is a big pledge. This is an extraordinary pledge. I'm not going to do this. That's very clear, very distinct.
I also think that a big thing for this was an effort on Trump's behalf to set him apart from other Republicans,
right?
Which was a big thing because voters didn't want just another Republican. They wanted somebody different. So this is a big deal, and that's why I remember him really giving this push that I'm not going to do like every other Republican said and cut Medicare.
And in this, Mulvaney is saying, well, Trump did try to do that, but ultimately we still got him to do that. And it goes further than even what Mulvaney said. I mean, these cuts, Trump is proposing, in fact, I'll just read it so you can get an idea of what I mean when I say it's changes. How Trump is proposing changing Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. When it comes to Medicare, the White House has been very clear. He's not cutting Medicare in this budget, Voight said. Now, Voight, just so we're clear, Voight, I thought, was his budget director. Let's see. The next one, where is it? There it is. Russell Vogt. Okay.
Office of Management and Budget Deputy Director Russ Vogt. Is it Vogt?
Yeah, it's Russ Vogt. So who was? Wait a minute. What am I missing here? Does he have
Mulvaney is Budget Director. Office of Management and Budget Director.
Mulvaney.
Go back to the other one.
This was 2017, so maybe it was the
Office of Management and Budget Director.
It might have changed.
Okay.
It's because this was back in 2017. All right. So
no, this is
his
Budget Deputy Director. So Vogt is Deputy Director.
Because I was like, Mulvaney's name is familiar to me, and I was like, I thought he was the budget director.
Yeah, Vogt is Deputy Director.
Deputy Director, Russ Vogt. Here's what's actually happening. The budget proposes finding $845 billion in savings over 10 years from Medicare as we know it. But $269 billion of that figure is reclassified under the Department of Health and Human Services, bringing the Medicare cuts to $575 billion. As Vaught explained, the administration says it would achieve these reductions in targeting wasteful spending and provider payments and lowering prescription drug costs. Republicans always say that. The Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, which advocates for fiscal responsibility, estimates that 85% of the cuts will come from reductions in provider payments, 5% will come from policies around medical malpractice, and 11% will come from reducing drug costs through Medicare D program. Medicare D is the only area of the reforms that could raise out-of-pocket drug costs for some while lowering for others. So you're putting one against the other. Otherwise, premiums, deductibles, and copays would be left unaffected. Unsurprisingly, the Federation of American Hospitals is not a fan of Trump's budget proposal. In a statement, they call the reforms devastating for seniors. More surprisingly, as Axiom Sam Baker points out, the reforms are pretty much the policies that Barack Obama proposed in 2012 the Republicans were against. But when it comes to Trump's proposed changes to Medicare and Social Security, the intent is unambiguous. These are to cut benefits. The 2020 budget's medical reforms includes adding work requirements and repealing Medicaid expansion as one of the most successful policies within the Affordable Care Act. Medicaid expansion reduces the insurance rate by more than 6% in states that enacted the policy. It continues to show better health outcomes in popular and conservative states, but Trump is envisioning changing Medicaid altogether. His budget proposes transforming the current pay-as-needed system to a block grant, where states are given a capped lump sum of a fund that doesn't grow with increased need or rising costs. The budget proposes $1.2 trillion market-based health grant. In isolation, the Medicaid budget costs around $1.5 trillion over 10 years, but looked at in the context of new block grants and work requirements and ACA cuts, the cuts round to about $778 billion, which just leave more millions uninsured. Meaning, Donald Trump was preparing, if you remember, to cut Obamacare. He was trying to make it Trump care. He was trying to get rid of it. And he backed every Republican budget that literally tried to get rid of Obamacare. That would have left millions off of health care after he told the public that he was going to give big, beautiful health care, that everybody was going to have health care. In this very particular case, he's saying, I'm not going to cut Social Security. I'm not going to cut Medicaid. I'm not going to cut Medicare. And he is talking about block grants in a system that may grow. So let's say if your state owes a certain amount, let's say $1 billion for healthcare, and I'm just using the numbers as examples. Well, with a block grant, what if your healthcare for the state is $1.2 billion? What if it's $2 billion? The block grants don't grow, meaning these are going to be people who just are ass out with regards to healthcare, meaning hospitals are just going to cut. They're going to cut the fat. And then further into this, let's go to Social Security, because I want to get to this part. I just want to make the point that it's less money for states or less money for people to be able to use healthcare. They're talking about cutting Medicare in a sense, and Medicare is going to have less money to be able to help. So you can imagine people applying for Medicare, the rate of people who get turned away from that is going to go down. He's also adding work requirements in some of these cases. There's some people who are on Medicare who, Social Security, I gave you a good example, dialysis. If you are eligible for dialysis, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and SSI, all of those things are allowed because they look at it as this person has a persistent illness that doesn't allow them to work. The majority of people who are on dialysis don't work. They just don't.
Right.
I worked my entire life when I got the opportunity, but the majority don't. And so you have a situation where adding work requirements to this may force people into the workforce that otherwise shouldn't be in the workforce. You know what I mean? Like, the things that they're doing are cuts. Be very clear on that. Be very clear. Yeah. Like, and people are going to be hurt
however
by
they
this.
word it or frame it. Yeah. Because when they, I don't know if you have part of the clip. I think
Bernie
you're going to talk about that next. Yeah. But so you go into that a little bit more.
Cross-examines the budget director, not Mulvaney, but the deputy budget director. Eats him alive. Eats him alive. And Bernie Sanders is kind of making this point. Look, regardless of how you guys are wording this, this is a cut. This is, it's like, no, it's not a cut, sir. It's savings. No, it's a cut. Let's be very clear on what it is. And let's go to the other part. The budget also continues an attack on Social Security, including a program that gives assistance to those who have disabilities that prevent them from being in the workforce. Right there. In all, the cuts to Social Security amount for $25 billion over the next 10 years, cutting roughly $10 billion from Social Security Disability Insurance Program, which the administration says will be found through cutting down on fraud, a common conservative talking point. I can guarantee you this: the people who are on dialysis or on, some kind of medical disability that precludes them from working, these are going to be the people that they hurt.
That are going to hit.
Right, because either they're going to try to force them into the workforce, which I guarantee you many of these people are not going to be able to go into the workforce. Now, they're going to call this, quote unquote, fraud prevention, all this other nonsense. But that's what they're talking about. And this broken promise, this goes into what Mulvaney is talking about, saying of how he tricked Donald Trump into doing this. It's fascinating. And then to brag about it, that stupid asshole, he put this in his budget. Let's see. Trump's budgets and the policies he supported around healthcare and government spending in Congress reflects the opposite, talking about not cutting Social Security, Medicare. Some of this can be attributed to Bush's appointed budget director, Mick Mulvaney, who's part of the ultra-conservative Freedom Caucus, bragged to Politico that he tricked Trump into accepting Social Security benefits by calling SSDI just disability insurance, spinning the president as general welfare reform. The idea has been in every single one of Trump's budget proposals to Congress that the president came to office. Meaning, ever since Trump has been given a budget proposal, that has been in there because Donald Trump believed that this was just disability insurance.
Welfare reform.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I suppose once you do it once, you're stuck with it. Let me see. Republican Obamacare repeal, right? Every bill proposed massive cuts to Medicaid in order to pay for tax cuts elsewhere. That's even more, that's probably the grossest aspect to this. Trump supported every iteration of Republicans' Obamacare repeal and replace bills. He has been held the party for House Republicans in the White House Rose Garden when the lower chamber of Congress narrowly passed a proposal that would have slashed more than $800 billion for Medicaid in over 10 years. Mind you, he did this to pay for tax cuts for people who have all the money in the world. Republican lawmakers have long argued that spending around mandatory programs to make up 70% of the budget deficit of the budget, like Medicaid and Social Security, needs to be reined in order to tackle the national debt. Trump drew red tape around those programs. Not so much. Like, he didn't protect those programs, is their point. He went after those programs, and the budget that he's putting out demonstrates such. Trump lied. Trump, bless you.
Thank you.
Did you believe Trump when he said he wasn't going to go after those programs? It's such a stark, I guess it's such a stark thing to say, though. Like, because it's unequivocal. It's one of those things of, are more or less people going to be able to use this program after you finish with it? Are you putting more or less money into the program? And if the answer is less people are going to be able to use it because less resources are available, then that's a cut. Whatever you want to call it, it's a cut. You can say we're saving, you can say whatever you want to spin it as, but ultimately you're cutting a program for people who need those programs. And by the way, a work requirement is a cut because that assumes that people are going to be able to work. It's
right.
Like,
some are not going to be eligible due to that new requirement.
Yeah, whatever the illness is. I don't know what the illness may be. I would imagine, kidney failure may be one, maybe diabetic, depending on how bad it is. I had a friend of mine that had a leg condition that her legs would swell. And it would swell to the point where, like, it was, and this is just her just sitting there. It was some kind of gland condition or lymph node
Probably
condition.
a venous insufficiency?
No, it had to do with lymph, like her lymph nodes. But her lymph nodes would swell. And she would, like, be at work sometimes with her legs, like, massive. Otherwise, she would have stayed at home. But if she would have stayed at home, she might have lost her job. This is kind of the point I'm saying. Some of these people are not in situations where they get entered the workforce under normal circumstances, in which case they use SSI.
So I want to know, what do you think about how is this going to impact Trump voters? Are they going... Now,
it depends.
My question is, are Trump voters going to look at this and say, oh, he's just making... Are they going to go with the verbiage that Trump's administration is using? Or are they going to see these are cuts? So
it depends on who Trump runs against, I think. And I know that sounds weird.
Who's going to shed the light on it like it should be?
Right. Because, like this article makes, No, and look, Vox is Democrats. That's like a lefty. Sometimes like they trend to the left. They tend to go heavy into numbers and that type of stuff, which is why I like their numbers. But Vox made this point that this is kind of like what Obama was doing. That's amazing. Like, did Vox say? I think it was Vox that said that. This is kind of like what Obama was trying to do around the budget. Like, some of the reforms that Republicans wouldn't want anything to do with it. Not all of what Trump is doing, but there are aspects of this that match Obama right here. Unsurprisingly, the Federation of American Hospitals is not a fan of Trump's budget proposals. In a statement, they call the reforms devastating for seniors. More surprisingly, Axiom Sam Baker pointed out that these reforms are pretty similar to Barack Obama's policy in 2012. That's, in and of itself, that they're using Obama's name in coordination with this is astonishingly bad. Now, if Sanders is in this race, Sanders can make this point that other Democrats, I think, would have a harder time making. Because, sometimes, it must be understood, sometimes the appeal of Donald Trump is not because he's putting policy out like this. The appeal of him is that they hate him. Like, does that make sense? Like, he has all of the hatred of mainstream media, of major news outlets. They hate his guts.
Right.
But many of the public itself are pissed off at the political system and the media system the way that is. And so the guy that they hate to some degree becomes, their champion in this case. Not so much because of what he's doing, more so in context of who he is. I mean, that's what that's the thought. By the same token, if the person who's running against him is not necessarily considered part of the clique, you know what I mean? It's considered something separate and distinct. Like, Bernie Sanders is not a real Democrat. Good. That type of rhetoric where those people look at him and say, okay, this guy's not like that.
Outside of the main...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside the main spectrum. So that, he sheds a light on that in a more earnest way, where they believe what he's saying more so in the context of other politicians who may just be part of the party. So Sanders can make this case a bit more than I think some of the other politicians. I mean, and again, a lot of this depends on whether the public accepts it. Because people love these programs. Like, part of the reason Donald Trump made that promise was because 80% support for Social Security and Medicare.
Republicans are in that percentage. They don't want to lose. What was the guy saying? Keep your hands off. Keep your hands
off my God, or what? Keep your government hands off my damn Medicare.
It was like,
But that's it. But that guy voted for Donald Trump.
Right, but that guy didn't want him messing with Medicare.
But that guy didn't even know Medicare was part of the government.
I feel you, but he at least knew that he wanted the Medicare that he had.
Right. So the question becomes, can the message get to that guy that Donald Trump has been trying to cut and go after these things?
I think that's the bigger question. And
by the way, this budget's dead on arrival. They're never going to let this pass. Democrats are never going to let this budget pass. Now, would they negotiate away some things? Maybe. But there's no way they're going to let this pass. And by the way, this being campaign season, oh man. This is anything that takes place in the political space is going to come up in regards to the elections. Because keep in mind, all of these guys are still political people within the system. So Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Sanders, all of those are senators. Let me see. Elizabeth Warren, senator.
Beto.
Tulsi Gabbard, Beto, right, House of Representatives. Like, all of these people are in the political space. And they're going to be screaming to high heaven about anything they can scream to high heaven on.
Might just get lost in all of the...
I don't know if it'll be lost. I think it's going for Sanders, this is going to be a big deal. For Beto, I have no idea why Beto is even running for president outside of he can raise a huge amount of money, which, by the way, he didn't do on this opening day. How brutal, how crushing it is as a man to wake up in the morning and realize that all the support that you gathered, all of that quote-unquote Beto momentum, had everything to do with them just hating your opponent. Oh, that's crushing. I thought they loved me. What's wrong?
That's going to fall. The lamp looks like it's going to fall.
It's good. Oh. Yeah, he was like, I thought they loved me. They just hated Ted Cruz.
Yeah. It's not really about you. It's more about him.
It's more about him.
Yeah, it's not you.
Crushing funny thing. Because they asked Beto, they said, are you going to release your campaign things to 24-hour fundraising? Everybody else did.
He refused to, didn't he?
He said, I choose not to. Now, this tripped me out because it sounded like Jerry Seinfeld when Jerry Seinfeld was in a race. Do you remember this? Seinfeld, there's an episode of Seinfeld where Seinfeld beat this guy in a race when they were in school. They were like high school or something. And after Seinfeld beats the guy, Seinfeld ended up getting a head start off of it. So he beat the guy in a false way, and the guy knew it. The guy was like, "There's no way you could beat me. There's no way." And he says, "I want a rematch. I want a rematch." And for like 20 years, this guy's hounded Seinfeld for a rematch, and every time he says, "I choose not to run." It sounds like Beto. I swear to God, that's where Beto took that from.
I choose not to release my...
I choose not to release my 24-hour fundraiser. I choose not to. He even looked like Seinfeld saying it.
I didn't see that. I didn't see it, so yeah.
He did.
Take your word for it.
Because at first he was like, "Well, I can't release those numbers," and the guy said, "You can't release." Oh, I can't. Okay. Well, let me change that.
I choose not to release the numbers. I know I could if I wanted to, but no.
But you know why?
Because it's painful.
There's no other reason why.
If it was good, why would you hide it?
Right. You're a politician. You're trying to show how much support you have. People love me.
Look at all the media coverage on how much Tulsi raised in her first 24 hours and Bernie in his first day.
It's like white Obama. And white Obama can't bring in the numbers now. He doesn't have Ted Cruz.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's not up against good old Ted.
Ted Cruz was Beto's best chance of winning in Texas, man. Isn't that wild? It's like his best chance of winning was putting somebody else being trash aside. Yeah.
It's not based off of how good you are. It's based off of how crappy the other guy is.
I wanted Beto to win that.
Oh, I know.
I wanted Beto to win that. So, it's not just them, but for president, fuck out of here. Get out of here. Beto who? Beto who? Your mom's looking at Beto, though.
I don't think she actually said who she was looking at, but she mentioned Beto.
It's because he's an attractive man, isn't
it? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think
your mom got to think of Beto.
Hot. I don't think he's hot.
He's tall. He looks like Obama. He's just white.
I don't know that's...
She's going to love him.
I don't know that's true, but okay. Speak for my mom and who she's attracted to and choosing her potential presidential bid based off of. That's great. That's cool. You do that.
I'm teasing. She didn't mention Beto, though.
Yeah.
She didn't want to talk to me about it because she thought I was going to go involved into it.
She's right.
No, my only question would have been, why Beto? Is that a fair question? Like, somebody says, "Hey, can you tell me about this person?" And it's like, well, just explain to me why this person. And the same way that you're asking me a question and you're incurring somewhat of a cost and ask that question, shouldn't I also get to ask the question? I mean, shouldn't you balance the equation on this? So it should all be about the other person and their needs. What if I have needs? Those needs can't be settled at the same time?
No. And it wasn't so much that you were going to ask a question. It wouldn't have stopped there. Like,
I just had one question.
It's never that easy.
Oh, no. I just had one.
Yes, my mom thinks that you have or would have a better insight.
I just had one question. Why Beto?
Why didn't she come to you? Was because...
No. I just wanted to know why Beto. That's the only thing I wanted to know. Because
and then she would answer and you would take... You would take that answer and do what?
Leave it there and just say, okay. And then I would explain
Beto. Exactly.
Because she asked me about Beto.
Exactly. No, she didn't.
She just asked me, what do I think of Beto?
You would take that and explain. That's why she didn't ask you. That's why she asked me.
You said she wanted to know about Beto.
You wouldn't say yes or no. She asked who we were voting for, and then she asked something else.
So you wanted two questions?
Okay, somebody gave her super chat. Pops up on the screen.
She wanted two?
It popped up on the screen. But her hesitation for going to you, I think, is valid, warranted.
Beto my ego.
Beto my ego. Garden
my
thank
ego.
You.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, so that happened.
Yeah.
All right, so can we move on to the next one?
So I have... pull this one up for me just to be on the safe side.
In line with Mulvaney and Vaught and all of their budget shenanigans with Trump, we have some of the testimony for Bernie interrogating.
We do have some of it.
Mulvaney.
Let me pull that up. Yeah.
So we'll take a look at that. Oh, let me look at some comments while we're doing that. Are you pulling it up?
Yeah, you can look at comments.
JT for Prez. No.
Beaton O'Rourke. Beaton O'Rourke probably raised less than Ted Cruz did in the same time span. How much did Ted Cruz raise? Oh, that's sad because I don't know if Ted Cruz is even running. Like, I don't know how much Ted Cruz raised, but I don't think Ted Cruz is running for anything. So yeah, Ted Cruz probably didn't raise much at all. Biden his time poorly.
That's a couple days ago.
That's okay. The only outcome of Joe Biden's entering the race. Oh God, the text is so small. The only outcome of Joe Biden entering the race is that it'll make Kamala Muchin 2020 become even more irrelevant, and it'll give Tom Perez one more reason to screw Bernie. I'm so ready for this three-way. I'm not ready for that three-way. This is not a three-way that I want.
What show was that on?
And Wes, Tulsi or Bernie 2020. I am Bernie all the way.
That's what my mom was asking. She was saying, are you guys going for Bernie again? And I was like, I'm pretty sure. And I mentioned Tulsi, and she was like, I'm not familiar with her.
That?
Yeah.
She's like, who's Tulsi? Yeah. Who?
All right, so Jimmy Dore's illegitimate son, thank you, gave a super chat. And Jimmy's illegitimate son says, do we have thoughts on reparations? It's weird we suddenly talking about this only when Bernie is surging, almost like trying to split white-black voters. There is a, let me just say this before Jamal says something. There's quite a few videos, if you'll go to his channel, where he talks about reparations. We talked about it on the last patron, the last two patrons. So we don't want to go too far into that today because there are a couple separate videos. So make sure you check those out. But he does talk about reparations in quite a bit of detail.
Yeah, so I have on the channel a few videos on reparations.
You said the last one is the best?
The last one is the best. I mean, because once before, like, it kept coming up in the after shows. Like, you know, you do a show and then the show will come up. And invariably, it would go towards the single reparations. And you would have like hundreds of people there talking about it. Like, you know, like it seems to be
it's a big topic.
And I'm, you know, shocked as shit that we're talking about it, because in my lifetime, and I understand this is my appraisal of whites, so fair enough. There's no regard for history in this way that would allow this, nor from a racial standpoint would allow this. Like, I don't know, man. Whites tend to be odd about the single race. And I'm not saying, you know, alone blacks tend to be too. Our society is just kind of a little strange with race. And with that topic of race, it cuts so close that I don't believe that it would be acceptable. And, you know, for people who say, oh, you know, this Uncle Tom is just waiting for his master to find something acceptable. In this particular election, to get what's his name elected, fuck yes.
Sanders?
Yeah. Oh. Because it matters. It's this idea that you're putting something up that cuts so close along the lines of race, and it causes such a thing. Whether you're right about them being owed, which I think you are. I think they are owed.
And he has said that they're owed.
Yeah, of course they're owed.
Bernie has said that they're owed.
Yeah, Bernie's.
I think your standpoint in it, to sum it up, if I could try, is right. It's very political. It's a toxic issue, and you agree with reparations, just not sure in what form.
I've made the argument for reparations in both of those videos.
Right, how they're gonna come about, and the fact that it's such a toxic topic.
But it's toxic only because whites have done a bad thing in this country, but the whites who are here now don't want that to be on them. They don't want that tar. Nobody will want that tar. And so dealing with an issue like this kind of hits at a core thing. You know what I mean? And so would I prefer them to deal with this issue? Yes. Would I want them to issue reparations? Yes. I think it's owed. Would it try to balance out some things or inequities in the society? Yes. Would it affect all of it? No, because you've had X number of years that have ensconced.
Psychological,
Yeah, it takes a while.
It's not that cut and dry.
How a reparation is given, I have no idea. But in this election term, when Sanders is trying to run into the race, and I know that the issue is radioactive for a constituent, you know, the white constituent, that is a toxic issue. And you thought people came out the woodwork for Trump. Oh my God, they would come out like nobody's business. In the next election, I just think the issue is toxic. It's not that I don't think it's owed. Yes. Yeah. If you had the conversation, I would say, well, yeah.
On top of that, it's a question of how a reparation is going to be paid.
Is it just
a lot of specifics that would go into that,
yeah.
And then
there was even a bill that was asking that question. By the way. It's HR, I don't remember the thing, but it's a bill out already that's asking the question, what are reparations? Like, what does it mean in the context of African Americans?
Yeah.
I mean, you gave them to the Japanese. Should they have just gotten over it? I mean, you gave them to the Jews. Germany has been giving it to the Jews for like 89 years. Shouldn't they have just gotten over it on year 50? Like, well, why is it in this very specific situation, is it, oh, you guys should just get over it? Or, we should just move on and that type of stuff. I find that argument to be utter nonsense. Yeah. The U.S. government enshrined a crime into law, meaning at no point did they really believe that those people were subhuman. They knew goddamn well that they were human beings just like everybody else. It was convenient for them to use that to propagate a society that was built on that white power structure.
They could.
So it's the government itself that enshrined that crime into law. So I'm not, yeah, I'm on board for it.
Watch the video.
Yeah.
Watch the video.
Yeah. I'm going to go that far into it. All right, so let's go to the Sanders one. So in this one, Sanders gets his hands on
Mulvaney.
No, on
Vote.
No, it's not Mulvaney. It's Vaught. Yeah.
Why do we keep getting these two guys confused? Is it just me?
It might be just you.
Oh.
It's okay.
My bad.
It's okay. It's okay. All right. So Bernie Sanders gets his hands on Vaught, and he gets to ask Vaught some questions about this budget and about Trump's pledge to not cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. This is awesome, by the way. This is pre-bandage Sanders. This is when he does not
Don't talk about him and his stitches.
All right. Come on. There. Don't bring up an ad. Don't bring up an ad. Don't bring up an ad. Don't be an ad. Don't be an ad. Just show me the video. Show me the video.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vogt, when your budget or the president's budget proposes $1.5 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and $845 billion cuts to Medicare, when you propose that, you obviously studied how many people would die as a result of lack of access to health care. What conclusion did you read? How many thousands of people do you think will die because of massive cuts to Medicare and Medicaid?
Senator, those numbers that you cited are not accurate. We do not cut Medicare by $850 billion. What that doesn't account for is the fact that we take things outside of Medicare, for such as uncompensated care, to non-Medicare beneficiaries. We move that outside of Medicare. We're going to still spend money on uncompensated care for non-Medicare beneficiaries, but when you adjust for the things where we put it back in other parts of the budget, there is no cut at all because Medicare is going up each and every year, and also it's $517 in savings instead of the number that you cited. And there's a
it's going up every year in nominal dollars. I understand that, but you will concede that healthcare inflation is higher than general inflation. So if you're not even keeping up with healthcare inflation, it in fact is a real healthcare cut. I mentioned earlier the very alarming concern that hospitals have about the devastation these cuts will do for senior citizens. And when you cut $1.5 trillion, you're also not including in your calculations the fact that there are more people who will be in the Medicare program. I suspect Medicaid, despite the administration's effort, will continue to expand. But you did not answer my question. There are studies out there which suggest that many thousands of Americans die every single year because they don't get to a doctor when they should. Did you, in your calculations about massive cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, come up with any numbers as to how many Americans will die or maybe get sicker because they don't have the health care that they need?
We don't think any of those scenarios will result. In fact, we look at the current situation when we look at a tragic scenario where a young boy in 2007, 2008, DeMonte Driver, died because of the fact that he had a toothache because of the wait lines within Medicaid. And we say that's a fundamentally broken system. We want a different system. We want states to have more control over
with less money. You want to throw, look, this president tried to throw millions of people off of Medicaid. Giving a block grant to a state with less money means massive cuts in Medicaid. Let's be honest about what you're doing. Let me ask you this question. President Trump campaigned about not cutting Medicare, not cutting Medicaid, and he's making massive cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. What should the American people think about that?
This budget's title is Promises Kept, Taxpayers First, and for a specific reason. The president kept his promises to the American people in this budget. We do not cut Medicare, we do not cut Social Security, and we do not cut Medicaid.
All right, I would respectfully suggest that is a dishonest answer. I think that's absolutely inaccurate. It is unfactual. And you will have to explain to somebody, not to me, why the hospitals in this country are scared to death about the impact that your budget and President Trump's budget will have on them. Please tell me.
When we look at a tragic scenario.
I find this answer amazing. Like, Bernie Sanders is asking very bluntly, why are you cutting Medicare and Social Security? Like you're saying you're not, but you are. You're being dishonest. You're saying that you want to give these states block grants, regardless of what the costs are. Like, you want to give block grants, meaning healthcare could be more than what that block grant covers. You're just giving them block grants, saying this is what we're doing, and then doing this dodgy thing of we've put them in other offices. Like, you're making cuts and trying to hide and cover these cuts.
Whatever verbiage you want.
Yeah, whatever
use,
verbiage.
The amount that they're receiving is reduced.
It's reduced. And then Sanders makes this point that, hospitals are terrified of what this means because they know what this means. Also, if Medicare has less money, then Medicare is going to serve less people. Like, some of this stuff is pretty straightforward, and this guy is being very dodgy and cagey about the way he's answering it. Sanders, to his credit, is putting it onto him. But this case that he's talking about here, where he's saying this person didn't have enough of something, I want to read this one more time.
In your calculations about massive cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, come up with any numbers as to how many Americans will die or maybe get sicker because they don't have the health care that they need?
We don't think any of those scenarios will result. In fact, we look at the current situation when we look at a tragic scenario where a young boy in 2007, 2008, DeMonte Driver, died because of the fact that he had a toothache because of the wait lines within Medicaid. And we say that's a fundamentally broken system.
Part of that broken system is because they don't have the access to the things that they need in order to make the system work. Like, let's be very clear with this. He's like, here's a case where this guy had wait lines. Okay, then what do you need to do in order to stop those wait lines? Do you honestly believe that cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security is going to make that a better outcome? That's nonsense. Right. That's utter nonsense. Like, this is these arguments that Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn get into, where Theresa May's like, we've given this much to it, and Jeremy Corbyn makes the point, it's not enough. If it was enough, then you wouldn't have people dying outside in ambulances. You wouldn't have nurses or doctors not going into the industry because they're terrified of the way it's been managed. Like, that type of stuff. And this nonsense that he's talking about, hey, well, we had this case where a guy died. And it's like, well, yeah, because he had a toothache and the waiting lines were too much. And do you honestly believe that your solution
is going to
fix that,
something like that from happening in the future?
You've just named, I can name anything. Tina Turner died on this particular date. And it's like, what the fuck does that have to do with what we're talking about? This has nothing to do with what we're saying. He just brought this out of whole cloth as if it pertains to anything. Let me talk about a negative situation that's taken place that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. And somehow I'm going to attach it because in the context of the conversation, we're talking about, this particular thing. This guy, how much do you have to get paid to spew shit like this?
I think it was Crozette Isles in the comments said this guy doesn't understand inflation on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. Like Sanders is like, do you understand that healthcare inflation spikes? Do you realize that healthcare was the number one issue for voters in this last election campaign? It's because their costs are going up so much, even under the context of Obamacare. Do you know that under Obamacare, just before the election when where Clinton lost to Donald Trump, failed to Donald Trump, there were some places where inflation in healthcare went up like 50%. Their costs went up like 50%. Like, imagine that. You have a 50% cost, and you're going to go and vote for the next person who's running in line for a Democrat who was supposed to have fixed that 50% cost in the first place. Now, the cost for Obamacare might be going up slightly less, but they're still going up. Yeah. And so, you're having this conversation with this asshole, and you're like, you understand that inflation is going to spike the cost of healthcare each year. and then it's spiking the cost of healthcare each year. That's going to be more than Americans have to pay, which means it's going to be less. Social Security or Medicare would be less capable of dealing with those human beings because you've given them less. Like it's not. He's lying through his teeth, and he's lying on purpose. But Sanders keeps bringing it back to him. So let Sanders do his thing.
We want a different system. We want states to have more control over
with less money. You want to throw. Look, this president tried to throw millions of people off of Medicaid. Giving a block grant to a state with less money means massive cuts in Medicaid. Let's be honest about what you're doing. Let me ask you this question. President Trump campaigned about not cutting Medicare, not cutting Medicaid, and he's making massive cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. What should the American people think about that?
This budget's title is Promises Kept, Taxpayers First, and for a specific reason. The president kept his promises to the American people in this budget. We do not cut Medicare, we do not cut Social Security, and we do not cut Medicaid.
All right, I would respectfully suggest that is a dishonest answer. I think that's absolutely inaccurate. It is unfactual. And you will have to explain to somebody, not to me, why the hospitals in this country are scared to death about the impact that your budget and President Trump's budget will have on them. Please tell me why it is a good idea to extend tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country who are already doing phenomenally well, and then cut back on the ability of kids to get a college education or senior citizens in this country to stay warm in the wintertime. What is your logic about that one?
We think it's important that families be able to keep more of what is their own money.
And what percentage,
difference
the tax breaks that you guys passed last year, 83% of those benefits went to the top 1%. In fact, millions of Americans paid more in taxes. So what you are doing here is giving tax breaks to the wealthiest people who are doing phenomenally well. Then you're cutting back on education, making it harder for kids to get a college education. You're cutting back on nutrition programs. Do you really not have a conscience? Do you know that people all over this country, children, seniors...
We're not cutting back on nutrition programs.
Oh, you're not cutting back on the SNAP program?
We have reforms in the SNAP.
Oh, reforms.
Work requirement of a harvest box. We're not...
How much are you cutting back on these programs?
We have about $200 billion in savings from those.
Oh, in savings, I see. See, to listen to these hearings, fellow Americans, you need to get a dictionary. Savings means cuts. Reform means massive cuts. Let's be clear what this budget is. This is a budget that benefits wealthy campaign contributors. This is a budget that goes to war against the working families of this country. This really is, in fact, a disgraceful budget, and I'm happy to say that there are going to be very few people, even Republicans, who will vote for this terrible budget.
Speaking of taxes going up, yours went up.
Yeah.
Yours went up. And like Sanders said, like when it always kills me when it's like, well, more people are going to be able to save their money. Yeah, but what you're really talking about is that the top 1% is going to be able to save their money. 83% of the tax breaks went to the top 1%.
They didn't go to me.
And Donald Trump kept saying, oh, I'm not going to give myself a tax cut when I get in office. Now, I never believed that at all. I was like, he's running as a Republican. What do you think you're going to get? If you're running,
yeah,
it is what it is. Like, it's like, come on. He can't be that naive. Which one is the...
What you looking for?
Let's see.
What are we checking?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. So yeah, you can do your spiel. We're going to the next one. And in fact, the next one is yours.
Oh, okay. So if you're just joining us, looks like we're just under 200 people here today. So welcome. We did the spiel around 80 people, so I'm sure not everybody heard it. But just a reminder that today's show is the weekly Patron Appreciation Show. This was started last year to give an opportunity for Jamarl to take time out to do just that, to show appreciation for everyone who contributes to the channel, whether it be patron, super chat, PayPal. There are a lot of different ways that we receive or he receives support for the channel. So he wanted to make time to give thanks for that, I guess. Sounds like Thanksgiving.
That's pretty much.
But the
Right.
weekly show is to that end. And so every week, patrons can log into their patron account and submit their topic suggestions, and we will pull from those topic suggestions when we have them to run today's show, to fuel today's show. And so far so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, not everybody can do a monetary contribution. So if you enjoy the content, like Jamal always says, subscribe, share. And I heard somebody say, or I saw somebody say earlier that they didn't get the notification for today's show.
Yeah.
Sometimes YouTube just screws us, but make sure that you're subscribed and make sure that you click the notification, the bell icon. I don't know where it is back under there, but make sure you click that icon, to enable notifications for the channel. So thank you for everyone who contributes to the show, for everyone who is subscribed. If you're not a patron, we are still appreciative for you guys being here.
Even just viewing the content.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what's the?
So thank you. So our next story today. Let me. Okay, we're going to talk about New Zealand and potential gun control. So everybody hopefully is aware of the New Zealand Christchurch mosque shootings that took place on the 15th. 15 people were killed. 50 people were killed and 50 were injured. I'm sorry. And in response to that, New Zealand government actually came out and started a conversation about banning semi-automatic weapons. And I think it showed up, and I thought it was interesting because it showed the stark contrast between U.S. conversation on gun control and other countries on gun control.
More sane.
Right. The article for New York Times, Jamal's getting pulled up, but they talk sanely about gun control.
Yeah.
It's not this fueled.
It's a different conversation.
It's
not in the United States. It's looked at as a right. Have a right to own this, this weapon, and it's like you have a right to own a killing machine because that's effectively what guns are. This machine is to take the life of somebody else.
In New Zealand, it's not a right.
Yeah, right. It's it's something that's regulated and so forth and can be restricted. New Zealand has a different look on guns, but I got to be honest. Every state that I've ever been to has had a different.
Every country.
Every country I've ever been to has been different on guns than the United States. I've never seen anything like. The other countries think we're insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had conversations with people, and they would ask the question like, "How on earth are you guys allowed to have guns in this way?" There we are. Like, how on earth are you guys allowed to have guns in this way? Like, how do you have a massive shooting without any regulation after the massive shooting? Like, it's just an amazing thing.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people commenting on it, and they were like, "Oh, I guess this is what happens when your politics aren't fueled by, the NRA, or NRA doesn't play such a large part in your politics, that kind of thing." And it kind of opened my eyes to the difference in, conversations that we have. Now, to be fair, if you'll scroll down in this article, they talk about how the Attorney General did kind of backpedal, because it is still touchy, but it was a more. You want me to read it? Yeah?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I mean, because they explain it in the first.
Yeah, she did backpedal a little bit, because it is still kind of a difficult conversation to have. So this is the Times article. It says, when the Prime Minister announced plans to ban semi-automatic rifles following Friday's mass shootings, it seemed to be the bold response that many New Zealanders wanted, until the country's Attorney General backpedaled almost immediately and said it might not be the government's final decision. Even after a massacre that left 50 people dead, the fight over guns and safety will be a fraught one for politicians in peaceful New Zealand, just as it is in the United States. But there is a crucial difference between the two countries that is already apparent. While Washington struggles to take action even as such shootings become more routine, New Zealand's government is immediately diving into a detailed discussion of further legislative checks on guns. Yeah. And I think that's the big thing, is that it's like hands off, it's like taboo here. If you'll go down to the bottom, they talk in this article about how, it's just a more sane Wait. Right here. So, on Sunday morning, Raymond Healy, 49, a member of the Christchurch Pistol Club, arrived at a local shooting range, hoping to get some time firing at targets. He was greeted with a white sign painted in red capital letters that said, "Range closed." Wearing olive green fleece, khaki pants, and untied boots, Mr. Healy said he wasn't surprised given the news of the shootings. He said the gun backlash was also to be expected. "I can understand why people will want more restrictions. Sounds pretty sane to me." He added that he'd be willing to consider changes. "There are always improvements that could be made to the law," Mr. Healy said. "There probably are loopholes." Now, I said, could you imagine in the United States if after a mass shooting, someone like from the NRA or one of, someone really into guns went to the gun range and the damn gun range was closed?
Yeah, they would have
Could you imagine what that interview would have been like on that day?
They would have flipped out.
It would have been insane.
I don't have this belief that they would have looked at it.
No,
and be like,
I mean, this guy...
There was a massacre. I can understand that people might feel some kind of way about it.
This guy is completely reasonable about it. Yes, he likes guns. Clearly, he's an average shooter.
Well, not just reasonable. The Prime Minister is somewhat reasonable in saying we need to do something about this. Now, I slightly disagree with the semi-automatic thing, only for this. Is it not important why people do something like that? Like what is in the individual for that person to go into a place and says, "I'm going to kill 50 people"? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just so extreme. You think about how you go about your day. Just think about, you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you play Xbox, you go to work, you do whatever you do for the course of your day. You have sex, you talk to your parents, the works.
Not at the same time, hopefully.
Ideally, but whatever you do, even if you live in that life where maybe you have, sticky fingers, maybe you're a heroin addict, whatever's your thing. But then but it's also somebody's thing to say, I'm going to wake up at that morning, I'm going to take a weapon, and I'm going to murder a lot of people. I'm going to kill as many people as I possibly can kill.
So are you saying it's more important?
I'm saying why an individual would do it is just as important as dealing with legislation to...
So we need to talk about what,
like, for example,
like the bigotry or the racism that's fueling this kind of attack?
Yes. Like, what's in your culture? What's in your society that's getting a person to behave in that way? I mean, even if it's from the bigotry, you can have somebody who's racist, who's not so racist that they decide to get up and do this. Like, that's an astonishing thing that you tackle. That person is not just an individual. That person is an individual within the context of a larger society, meaning there are other people around him. He has a certain culture, tradition, and there are subcultures that he clearly propagates in that think this is okay, and that has fueled a reality of his. Like, and I'm trying to make this point a reality. Just like your reality is, husband, dogs, etc. In his reality context, it was enough where he said, I'm going to get up this morning, I'm going to grab this weapon, and I need to go and murder people. That's an extreme thing. And it's hard to put yourself in their headspace.
So we need to talk about how the hell he got there.
How he got there. How did that person exist? I said the same thing about the United States, especially since the United States has a gun culture where, mass killings happens like every day. And I'm talking mass meaning more than 2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, man. It's always taken as this kind of, we need to do something about the guns. And it's like, yeah, but you also need to consider why individuals decide to use those guns for those reasons. What you looking for, babe?
I was looking for the quotes when they were talking about, peaceful New Zealand is being affected. How they were kind of living in this blissful state, and now the world has caught up with them. Yeah. I thought the way that they phrased it, I thought was kind of interesting, but I can't find it. Because New Zealand is
not a
crime-ridden
country. I mean, so it's like, they have one of these, let's say, every X number, how many every years?
But they do say, and he mentions why in this article. So the link for this article is in the description box below, so you guys can read the full thing. But they do talk about the reason that they use semi-automatics is because of wildlife, deer, four-legged creatures, and they need a weapon that will fire quickly.
Because don't they have
to target these
wild areas in New Zealand?
So
yeah,
this does sound really racist to say it's like a
wild
animals. Wild animals.
No, I said wild areas.
No, I know what you're talking about. Wilderness kind of thing.
Right, in Australia. Yeah, that's my thinking. So that's what I mean. Like, what is the thing? I mean, clearly they've had these weapons forever. Is this the first time this happened in New Zealand?
The gun culture that's developed tends to be organized, careful, and not particularly widespread. They're talking about, I think that's a little lower. After a mass shooting in 1990, when a man killed 13 people, including 2 6-year-olds, after a dispute with his neighbor in the seaside town of Aramona, New Zealand's parliament added additional license requirements for semi-automatic weapons and guns.
So 1990 was the last one, and this guy killed a dispute with a neighbor.
People.
And this was a dispute with a neighbor. So, you know, this is somewhat of a more organic killing where a person gets pissed off and goes and, you know, this kind of heat of passion killing. But even that was what, 20 years ago?
I don't know that that's the last one. I don't know that that's the last one. So
this is just the one where they actively did something about it. I guess all I'm saying is this. I understand that when they ask politicians to do something, you have a government, and with that government, you looked at a government to be the thing that deals with issues in the larger context of the administration of our society. And in looking to them, the public says, "Oh my God, there's a mass shooting. Somebody has to do something. We need somebody to do something. We can't just have these mass shootings that are taking place. You're the government. Do your job." And so the government then comes up with the unenviable position of needing to do their job in a way that they can't do their job. Like, they can say, the only thing that they can say is, we'll limit this, we'll put a restriction on this, and those look like you're doing something, but that's more busy work than anything else.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, the crux of this issue really does get down to, what is the thing? What is the impetus that makes a person want to kill in the first place? And what aspects of our society propagate that? Now, the honesty of it is the politician probably can't do anything about that. Or at the very least, we need to have a larger conversation on how we go about our way, just as human beings, to try to reduce stuff like this. That was a crime of passion. The other one at this point was him, does putting a restriction on the gun stop either of those things from taking place? No. Am I wrong? I don't mean to be a dick here, but even in the United States, it's the same thing. Something happens, and it's like, we need background checks. Is the background check the thing that's going to stop that person? Are people without backgrounds? Like who are all these people without backgrounds? Certainly, there are going to be people with backgrounds that are also going to be very capable of doing the exact same thing that the people with without these backgrounds do.
Well, I think one of the conversations that is being had now and has been had before, even here in the United States, is the need for semi-automatic weapons.
Yeah.
Because they talked about how, I don't remember what shooting it was, but how many people were killed because the guy didn't have to reload.
Yes.
And how
cutting down on the number of bullets and those type of things.
Right. And so I think that's a pretty reasonable conversation to have, is, do you really need a semi-automatic in your everyday life? I mean, yeah, okay, I want to protect myself, I want to protect my family. Do you need a semi-automatic weapon for that?
The question becomes, how... It's like how many deaths are we going to tolerate? It's like, well, we can't do anything about it, but hey, maybe we can cut down the number of people he can murder. That's a gross conversation, right? I mean,
no, I'm just
It's like, we have an imperfect society, and so an imperfect solution to this problem is cut down the number of bullet things to
right, because there's not a perfect way to weed out, like you said. Just because we're doing a background check, doesn't mean that somebody with no prior criminal history isn't going to go out and do something today. So a background check might not stop people, but at least those people that do get through don't have the ability to harm as many people.
I'd argue that crime, to some degree, is pushed on by poverty. If people have access to the things that they... And this is not an absolute. There's some people who want more, so don't misunderstand me. There are elements of society that, pushes people to get as most as they can. But not everybody feel that they can get the money that the society tells them that they should get in a typical job. To some degree, our society propagates a certain mentality of crime. But in this very specific case, I think crime, to some degree, is driven, in some respects, by poverty. I just do. I think it makes it worse.
And then also, we talked about, you and I have had a conversation before about people who are joining like terrorist groups. Yeah. When you are in your worst fucking situation of your life, you have nothing to lose. That's when you go and you do these radical things.
Right.
If you are
working
and you're happy and your bills are paid and you're going, your kids are taken care of, do you go out and risk everything that you do have? And so,
to mention, does the society that you're in, is it racist towards you? Like, do you as an individual believe that society that you're in is pressuring you in some way? Like, kind of like the thing that was happening in Britain with Muslims, where you had all of these people saying the government itself was treating them unfairly, you know. If that's in place also, like, not saying it's true, just saying that if the person believes it,
Right.
It makes that person more susceptible to those things. As a person, well, Jesus Christ, the word just slipped on me. As opposed to being in a society where you're integrated and you have your access to your needs. Like, I just don't know people who have access to their needs just get up and go join some kind of terrorist group. That's bizarre to me. Unless they believe that there are other people are being oppressed. Like, I'm saying, without any of those factors. Like, say, for example, your country is in a war, in which case you want to go and help your country out in the war. But taking that out of the mix, if that person has access to the things that they need and they are fulfilled as a person, I don't think you do that. I think these situations where we're seeing terrorism and everything else is because these people have nothing. Like, you've destroyed, like, Iraq.
And they're blaming someone else for
yes,
their lack
conditions
of,
to some degree that we cause, right.
We got some...
Sorry,
this was the quote that I was looking for. We've lived in utopia.
Wait.
Uh-oh. What are you looking for? Oh, that's it. That's what I was looking for earlier. I thought that was interesting the way that he phrased it. It just kind of reflects on how it kind of shook the whole country. It says, "We lived in a utopia, but the world's caught up with us," said Chris Cahill, head of the Police Association, a union of police officers. "Our innocence is gone."
Jesus Christ.
That's why that was the feeling I had when I read it. I was like, oh wow.
It's like it was raped or something.
But they said that New Zealand had the lowest crime rate, like one of the lowest.
And it probably will continue to have the lowest crime rate
after this.
Yeah. I mean, but the fact of the matter is the world is...
What's the happiest country in the world? Is it
Denmark? Denmark. I think
Okay.
it's Denmark. Yeah. Happiness index is the highest. I mean, and capitalist nation, by the way. Do you remember me talking to the cat from Denmark, the one at the Egyptian casino?
Yeah.
And we talked for hours. I looked up, it was like 3, 4 in the morning.
And what was I? What was your wife doing?
You were standing there beside me, engaged and fascinated by the conversation we were having.
What did Bernie Sanders tell that guy? That is not factual.
I guess my point is, that guy said, we're a capitalist nation. He said, don't let anybody be fooled by that. He said, but we make sure that the people who are working for us are happy and content and have enough money to go about their way. He says, you guys have it backwards. He says, the goal of it shouldn't be to get as much as you can. Fact is, you have to give some to your workers in order for them to remain your workers. That was his idea of it. He was like, you guys are doing capitalism wrong. That was his thought. Yeah.
Yeah. How do I find the
What are you looking for?
This. So we had a couple of super chats. So Krillin 876, not sure what this was about, but thank you. Krillin says, alt-right,
Yeah.
done with Trump, now they are okay.
Yang
Gang.
Who's Yang Gang?
I'm not sure. I think that was somebody that was talking in the chat.
You mean the Green Party guy?
I don't know. Oh no, he was talking to someone in the chat about Yang Gang. I don't know what that was in regards to.
And Jimmy Dore's illegitimate son, David Cross, already crunched the numbers and shoot first question than ever. A mass shooting of 1,776 deaths at once before we can talk about regulation. Oh, jeez. That's grim. And I gotta be honest, I don't even think they would probably talk about regulation then. Like, understand where we are in this country with that. We are at the point where they would say something like, even among Democrats, their advice was to offer prayers, to don't be too hot with jumping onto a topic. You know, don't let your emotions get involved with you.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, send thoughts and prayers. Like, so I'm just saying, so that's where this country is on those type of things. I found that to be amazing perspective. I mean, even if I make this argument that, look, we need to figure out what's at the crux of the individual that's causing this. But then everything from what's in the crux of the individual that's following this to every lesser, better, I know that sounds weird, but every less good suggestion, all the way down to, okay, we need to have some kind of regulation on guns, or a type of gun, or maybe a restriction on how many bullets you can have outside of the military. Like, you know, those are worse scenarios or worse suggestions, but they're better than nothing, if that makes sense. Like, it's, the public wants the government to do something that the government can't fundamentally do, because the government can't fundamentally tell the society that it needs to be something else. And do you want your government telling you that? And are you willing to take those things? Like if I say, look, I can make sure you don't have heart disease. I just need you to eat vegetables. I need you to become a vegetarian. That will cure your heart disease. How many people would be able to do that to cure their heart disease? I guarantee you it will not be as many as I don't think it's going to be many. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be as many as it should be. It's not easy. Your society has certain things that it's gotten accustomed to. And in getting accustomed to those things, it propagates certain behavior. I think, so for example, we allow people to sleep on the streets. That's okay first. Now, you may say, oh, that's a horrible problem. Oh, we can't do anything about it. Oh, that's impossible. It's not impossible. You can solve homelessness. You just have to, care about it. If the public itself cared enough about homelessness,
something will be getting done.
Something will be done, because you would have enough pressure to do something about it. But they don't really care about homelessness, and they don't really want, they look at it as, I want to get that guy more money, that guy should be out there working. Like, we look at those things a particular way. What's another one? The people not having access to their health care or their medication. We allow that too. We allow tens of millions of people go without health care. Like, that's amazing. This is not because we don't have the ability to do something, it's because we do it. Here's another one. During like the Great Depression and all of these companies had these empty machines, and all of these people didn't have jobs because they lost their jobs. The machines were still there. The workers were still there. The acumen of the workers to be able to do that job was still there.
You can't match the two.
You can't match the two because of, the capitalistic system is private enterprise. Those are like, so sane human being who are looking at us above would be like, well, money's not real. In fact, the very idea of a company is not technically real. I mean, ultimately, these things are legal, intellectual affirmations that we accept in order to go about our way. The products that they make are real, however, and the machinery itself is real, and the human beings are real. Mm-hmm. You just guys have a conception issue that allows these two things to meld together, and have a Ponzi scheme system that would at times rip these things apart. I don't know. I just think there are things that our issues with society really does boil down to our conceptions of how society should be arranged. And people are not great with deviating from the things that they've always done in society, even if it means a sustainably better world. I don't know. I get annoyed with issues like gun control. And I've gotten to the point where I'm somewhat callous to those issues, if I'm being entirely honest. Because I feel like nothing's going to get done, so what does it matter? The society knows that there's going to be another one the moment that the last one takes place. It's only a matter of time. Society doesn't do anything. You have one party that says send prayers. You have another party that says send prayers sometimes, but other, they get animated about it. And they may attack Bernie Sanders for it because they're just trying to get Bernie Sanders, but they don't care about the issue in a fundamental way that gets it to change. And so it doesn't change. And so the moment that the first one happens, it's like, all right, well, we're going to have another one because nobody's going to do anything about it. And boom, we have another one. And then people cry. Obama goes out, weeps a tear, and it's like, oh, Obama wept a tear, and a tear fall from his face when he was talking about it. And he goes back to his office. This is nothing. It's Trump. It's not going to do anything more either. So, yeah, I'm callous.
Kyle says, Yang Gang. You were like, what is Yang Gang? That is Andrew Yang.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, Andrew Yang. Okay. So they're on the Andrew Yang gang. All right, I guess that's good. I would prefer them to be on the Sanders ticket. But that's okay.
All right,
so let's go to the other one. You did the P.O. Box shout-outs this morning.
Lisa Page.
It can't be Lisa Page. Lisa Page?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Lisa Page and the FBI. Now, I talked about this before. Do you know anything about this? So
a little bit.
All right.
I did read the article.
So James Comey comes out.
Tell them.
Okay, James Comey comes out with Hillary Clinton. Because if you remember during the election, we wanted Bernie Sanders to win. And Hillary Clinton was under a federal investigation, meaning she could have been perp walked. Like, this was serious. It was an FBI criminal investigation. And Comey comes out and gives this testimony that lists her sins and failures, or just rungs it out, saying other governments got their hand on our materials because of Hillary Clinton being essentially cavalier with the information. And he detailed one failure after the next. And then he says, no reasonable prosecutor will take up this case. Now, the problem with this is that according to Lisa Page, Comey and other, I guess, other elements of the FBI did go to the Justice Department to try to make the point on gross negligence. Her point to them was, because they were attacking her saying, you didn't push for this real investigation, this wasn't a real investigation. She says, no, we went to the Justice Department on issues of negligence. And she said the Justice Department, under Loretta Lynch, turned them away. They wouldn't allow them to press charges. Now, if you remember, Loretta Lynch comes out and says, because she's, Obama was appointed her. Of course, she was friends to Clinton. And of course, she might have even gotten a job with Clinton after Clinton got in office. Loretta Lynch said, my hands are going to be off the wheels on this. I know you guys have issues and ideas that because I'm appointed by a Democrat, that I may have every impetus in the world to help Hillary Clinton get off. But I, Loretta Lynch, my integrity abounds.
I'm skeptical.
And I will not do such a thing. And you find out she did do such a thing. Now, I don't know how many people were swayed by this, however. I wasn't swayed by this. My thought was, early on in the channel, you can look at my old videos, I said, makes all the sense in the world that a Democratic president who appointed Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, within the margins, will try to do everything possible to keep her from going to jail. I said the Attorney General knows that the President of the United States, the Democratic President of the United States, doesn't want Hillary Clinton to go to jail. And the Attorney General herself, within the margins of what she can do, will do what she can to keep Hillary Clinton out of jail. That was my thing.
Seems like common sense.
That seems like common sense. That seems to be the logical position to take, seeing as all of these people are Democrats. Hillary Clinton is a Democrat running for office. She was appointed by Obama, the sitting president, and he wouldn't want her to, none of these people want her to go to prison. And all of them have a dog in the hunt in keeping her out of prison. So it's like, why isn't that the assumed position? And then you see stuff like this come out with Comey, and Comey lists all of these sins and failures, and then say, not guilty. What are you doing, babe?
Oh, sorry.
What are you doing?
I'm looking for the article.
Oh, I don't think I have it up.
Oh, sorry.
And this is not guilty. Like this list of offenses. And so you have to ask, it's like, okay, the same people that were involved with getting Hillary Clinton off ends up getting Donald Trump on. That's the important point that I made. It's like, if these guys are gaming the system with her, is it possible that the same people are gaming the system with him, seeing as these two are in political opposition with one another? That was my thinking on it. And I thought, it's insane for the news to look at that cavalierly, as if that's a conspiracy theory by Republicans. It's not. It makes all the logical sense in the world that within the context of what they can do, they would try to get her off. And it just so happens that the last and final say on it was the Justice Department. And that Justice Department turned them away. No, go away. Go away. Now, that's mind-blowing, and that should be a bombshell. And this was congressional testimony, meaning the congressman who she told that to gets on Twitter and confirms every word that was said.
Who, Lisa Page?
Lisa Page.
Yep.
Lisa Page was the one who was cheating with, Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok was cheating. Lisa Page was cheating on her husband with Peter Strzok. No. That might be the other way around. But either way, in fact, both might have been married, but they were cheating on their husbands, their respective spouses. And Strzok was the one who was talking about an insurance policy with Trump, essentially be able to attrition damage where they can bleed him dry with this campaign and everything else, this idea that they can get him out of office using the Trump-Russia stuff. That's her. That's those two who is having this conversation. And that's her when she was being, I guess you can say, deposed or talked about in this private testimony. Any word on that?
No.
H.A. Goodman said that Hillary Clinton was going to be
H.A. Goodman said that every day for like 7 years.
It wasn't that many years, babe.
It was a long time. It felt like it took 7 years off my life.
Does this vindicate him, though? Does this vindicate him in some way?
No.
I mean, just to be fair, just to be fair to H.A., he didn't know that they were going to game the system to keep her in. I'm not making an argument for him. I'm just saying. He didn't know that they were going to game the system to keep her out of jail. His only point was Hillary Clinton's going to be perp walked. They're going to lock her up. They're going to lock her up. They're going to lock her up. Now, my thought was, you're pissing in the wind on this because there's no way to know if they're going to lock her up. So that's a risk to say that.
I think my issue was the videos that I saw pop up on H.A. Goodman's channel. I don't know, because I got to be honest, I didn't watch the majority of them. They all said, Hillary goes to jail. And it's like, oh shit, she went to jail. Oh no, she didn't go to jail this time. Hillary gets indicted. Oh shit, she got that. Oh no, she didn't get that. Hillary got a perp walk. Oh, she got it. Oh no, he didn't.
He did that for like a year. He did it for like 2 years.
Oh, they got. Oh no, they.
I guess my point is this:
clickbait.
If the Justice Department treated that case like any other case, he might have been right. But the fact of the matter is, you can't.
His title would have been accurate,
right,
and not just.
But it wasn't accurate because that's not what actually happened. There was a debate on my channel on whether H.A. was right. H.A. was not right because at the end of the day, she didn't get indicted.
She didn't go to jail.
But she, after hearing testimony like this, if Democrats get in office, they're not going to touch her. And if the Republicans were interested, they would have had the opportunity to go after her or put on somebody after her. They did not. They should have had a special prosecutor, though. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, unbiased. Yeah. That's like in the world that I work in for healthcare financial audits. You have an external auditor that comes in because surely there's going to be a difference between an internal auditor and an external auditor. Yeah. They kind of need an unbiased perspective.
Because the idea that you would leave the Justice Department, who's headed up by a Democratic administration, as a final arbiter of whether or not to get Hillary Clinton locked up is insane. And the media looks at this and says, nothing to see here. No, they're unbiased. It's like, oh, Loretta Lynch would never do anything like that. Loretta Lynch was pressuring Comey.
She did that.
She did that. And I felt like Comey doing that was a cry for help. Like, it was that desperate, pathetic cry for help of, I can't say anything more than this, but God damn it, I'm going to say what I can say. And it's, she making me talk like the campaign. I didn't like to do that. Nobody asked the next question. Was there anything else that Loretta Lynch told you not to do in regards to this case? Now, that question is difficult, though, because Comey may lie about that because it looks bad to say that I let her off because of pressure from the Justice Department. Like, that looks bad. You, as your career. So, I just thought that case was interesting, which is why I wanted to talk about the Lisa Page thing. Do you want to do surveillance capitalism?
I do, but just really quick. Susie Q, thank you, gave a super chat. It looks like we also may have a Streamlabs donation before we move into the next one. So just very quickly, that's what I was trying to get to earlier. Don't forget, we are live right now, obviously, but because this is Patron Appreciation Show, this is going to be available only to patrons after the live showing. So if you're a patron and you're just getting here, make sure that you log into your account, check out the video so you can see it from the beginning and all the topics that you missed. If you're not a patron, consider being a patron. You can join for as little as $1 a month, and that way you can get all of the good content that is available to patrons only. If you're not a patron and you do donate, like the super chat that we read, or the Streamlabs, feel free to send an email or information, and we will send you the link to the Patron Appreciation Show to make sure that you're getting everything that the patrons do. Yeah. Because like I've said a couple times already, support comes from means outside of just Patron. So thank you, Susie Q, for the super chat. And then also we have a Streamlabs.
Kills for a living. Yang proposes $2.5 trillion per year, UBI, but reparations is divisive. The hypocrisy of the so-called left is hilarious. Do you want to answer that? I'll respond to it, but do you want to answer that?
Yang proposes $2.5 million a year universal basic income, but reparations is divisive. Okay, the hypocrisy of the so-called left. So he's okay with basic income, but he's not on board for reparations, and he's saying that's
no. He's saying
hypocritical.
No, he's saying
that
the
Yang.
Left. No. He's saying he's criticizing us in some way. He's saying Yang proposes $2.5 billion a year
that's
for
what
reparations.
I'm saying. So he's on board for that money towards UBI, but not money for reparations.
But he's saying the left is okay with that, meaning us on the left is okay with the proposal for $2.5 trillion for the UBI, but they think reparations is divisive, and it's saying like
those two things can both be true. Reparations can be divisive, and we can be on board for universal basic income.
But
those
his point
things
is,
aren't standalone.
if you can use that money for one, but you can't use it for the other. But that's just it. It is divisive because the ADOS was talking about American descendants of slaves. It corded off one section of the population and would have given, let's assume, a check, if we're just talking about the most basic form, to this group within the population. Now, I think that's okay. A lot of people, without my skin tone, don't. And so regardless of me thinking it's okay, I'm kind of stuck in this kind of thing of this doesn't go anywhere, it's toxic. A UBI is everybody. Everybody is included within a UBI. There is no divisiveness within the context of a UBI because everybody's included within a UBI. It's like, if Paul died, and when Paul died, Paul left $2 billion, but he only gave it to 2 kids, and they have 5 kids, the 3 kids are going to be pissed off that Paul died. Now, if you're asking me, is it divisive that Paul gives 2 kids $2 billion as opposed to giving 5 kids in a family $2 billion? I'm telling you, yes, it is. Now, if Paul would have died and gave everybody part of that $5 billion, is there any divisiveness? No, there's not. I'm just saying. This is.
But maybe Paul decided he was only giving that money to those 2 kids because they had a different mother.
That's fine.
That's
But
divisive.
it doesn't. But still, those other 3 kids.
Divisive.
Divisive. I'll call it divisive. But those other 3 kids are going to be pissed off. They're going to be pissed off. So yes, I get. If I'm going to get dinged, I want to get dinged for something that's right. Just as a flat fact, it's divisive. It's a flat fact.
But I guess my thing is
unless you have if you don't have the population on your side, it has 20-something% support. 20-something%. This is not me making it up. It's 27%. By definition, trying to push something through with only 27% is going to be divisive. That's what if they said, you know what, we're going to push through this thing of we're going to allow gay repairing therapy. What is it called? Gay something therapy. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
But it's the thing that supposedly converts gays, converts back to
corrective
corrective surgery.
or something.
Yeah. Gay corrective programs. And we say, you know what, we're going to push that all throughout the United States, paid for by the federal government. Because a Republican administration is in office and they have all of the people in line in order to make that work. Now, you can imagine that this is going to have some kind of issue with people who are not Republicans, who are not into the Christian thing, who don't believe that this is perfectly okay. So you're going to run roughshod over the opinions of everybody else within the society in order to please 10-15% of a society. Is that divisive? Yes. Yes. They hate that program. Yes. And that's not a great example because I think reparations are owed, whereas this, it's nonsense. But whatever it is that you want to add to there, you're trying to introduce X into a society where only 30% of society is okay with.
That's going to be...
Just by definition, it's divisive. It's not that it's wrong. It's just, we're just talking about the factual term divisive. Yeah.
Do we have a article for the next one? Oh.
Good.
I can't navigate this well.
You had to turn. I just need to be back. So Sequoia ZQ. Thank you, Sequoia.
Susie Q. I already covered that.
That's
one.
Susie Q.
Sue.
Oh, Sue Q. Nice.
Susie Q.
Good catch. I missed that one. I thought it's a Sequoia.
No, that's a lot of other different letters.
Sue. Oh, that's Sue. I was saying it from here.
Try the Streamlabs. Make sure we didn't miss one before we go to the next one.
They're gonna be bitching about my perspective.
Yep. Reparations is a debt owed the so-called left.
Yes.
It's divisive UBI, not a debt owed the so-called left. That's great.
That's your argument? Reparations is a debt owed to the so-called. Reparations is a debt owed. It's divisive. UBI is not a debt owed to the so-called left. That's great. Well, because that's one to everybody. That's what you're missing. We're not talking about... Your argument to me would be more right if it was in the context of whether or not UBI or whether or not one is going to be divisive. Now, understand what I mean when I'm saying this. If a certain percentage of the population, if only a small percentage of the population agrees with you, it could be a debt owed. That could be a flat fact. Or that could be true. At least I think it's true. You have all these people working for a period of time. those people's great grandkids should get the profits from that work. So you already have me on that part. The problem here is you have 70% of the population that disagrees with you on that issue. Even some blacks disagree with you on the issue. So it's not that simple. It's politically, it's divisive. Whether or not it's owed or not is somewhat secondary to the question of whether or not it's politically divisive and you can get it over the finish line. It is a debt that is true. The moment that you get the other 60% of whites who say, oh my God, I'm not giving you a dime, I wasn't there, and et cetera, blah, 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 all these other excuses. Right. So UBI just is a society coming together saying, look, we're going to support ourselves and we're going to make sure that we have a decent living for each of us. That's not divisive at all.
What's the approval for UBI? Are most people on board for UBI?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think most people even know what it is. But I guess I'm making the point that there's a difference in those things. UBI is not a debt owed. UBI is a society coming together saying we're going to do X. It's like Social Security. Social Security is not a debt owed per se. Social Security is the society itself coming together saying we're going to provide this for people when they get a certain age or when those people get an illness. And we're going to make sure that they're okay. That's not divisive at all if the society comes together and says it's okay with it. I'm just making a point. There's a difference in those things. There's a difference in those things.
All right. Do we have a video for the Venezuela and China one?
I don't know if there's a video for that, but we do have the thing for it. Did you give a pitch for...
Welcome to Patron Appreciation, the weekly segment dedicated to... I did all that already.
Okay, just making sure. I thought I had that up at one point. All right.
Let me go to the comments.
We had to shut down just before we came up because the computer was doing bad things. Here we are.
Garden Gnome says, "Oh, we ready? Can we read some comments? Are you good?"
You can read some comments, but we do have it up.
Okay, well, let's go. I don't want us to get
okay
sidetracked.
All right. So China, there's something to say about China. There's this fight almost on a kind of world leader stage, and part of that is because Donald Trump is so inept that it just allows anybody else who's competent to take a certain degree of leadership. One thing came on or happened with the with the shutting down of the airlines. Airline 888 or something, not Airbus or something to do with but it had to do with American aviation standards. And there was another crash. China shuts the planes down. China was like, we're not going to allow this to continue. Then the United States or other countries behind China shut the planes down. And then finally the United States comes in and shut the planes down. But at this point, the United States was lagging behind the other worlds. What took so long? Yeah, what took so long. And it looks bad, and it almost looks like China's taking a world stage on some of this stuff. This random guy post this.
Yeah.
All right, so this has to do with China stepping on the world stage again in a big way.
This time in Venezuela.
China is offering to help Venezuela restore their power grids. Now, let's be honest. Who would have an interest in the power grids of Venezuela going down? When I ask this question, I'm saying, who would have an interest in Venezuela's power grid taking an L? Of course, that would be the country that is trying to overthrow it. Is it possible that elements within the United States is working with elements in the opposition to affect that change? I mean, since they're giving them millions of dollars behind the scenes. The answer, of course, would be yes. They're trying to create as much chaos as possible in Venezuela to topple the government of Venezuela and make people unhappy with that government by making the society stressed. Making the society scream. Lights, water, that type of stuff, making everything go up, lacking dialysis equipment, lacking medications. I mean, that's literally what they've been doing with sanctions. Sanctions are an act of war. Don't forget that. It's siege warfare. You're trying to strangulate the society. In order to put their lackey in, Guida, the person who the public didn't even know who he was was just the lackey that decided to work with the foreign government to topple his own government. He's treasonous, for one thing. The fact that he's not in prison right now is somewhat of a testament to the stranglehold that the United States has on him, because the U.S. is looking for any pretext to invade Venezuela, using either the Colombian army or the armies that the United States, their proxies, let's say it that way. or to get elements in the country to overthrow, meaning to splinter away the military to create this kind of civil war type situation. Kind of like what's taking place in Syria right now. So it's suspected that the United States has something to do with the power grid going down. China, however, has stepped on the world stage to help. Now, Russia has also stepped up in order to help with aid. People kept saying, oh, he's not accepting humanitarian aid. Even Bernie Sanders said he's not accepting humanitarian aid. Well, he was accepting humanitarian aid. He was accepting it, however, from countries that weren't trying to overthrow him. And in this case, China is offering to help. China offered to help on Wednesday to help Venezuela restore its power grid after Nicolas Maduro accused the United States, Donald Trump, of a cyber sabotage that plunged the South American country into the worst blackout on record. Maduro, who continues to control the military and other state institutions as well as backing Russia and China, has blamed Washington for the nation's economic turmoil and denounced opposition leader Guaidó as a puppet of the United States. He is a puppet of the United States. With the power blackout in its 6th day, hospitals struggle to keep office equipment running, food rotted in the tropical heat, and exports from the country's main oil terminal were shut down. Speaking in Beijing, China's foreign minister spokesman Liu Kang said China has noted reports of a power grid has gone down due to having attack.
Due to a hacking attack.
Oh, due to a hacking attack. China is deeply concerned about this, Liu said. China hopes that the Venezuelan side can discover the reason for the issue as soon as possible and resume normal power supply and social order. China is willing to provide the help and the technical support to restore Venezuela's power grid.
He gave no details.
That's awesome. Good. And, I know this sounds wild, but this is also part of the advantage of living in a multipolar world. If the United States was a unipolar power within the world itself, that never takes place. That country remains in a blackout. And the same processes that took place in Iraq, this kind of strangling the country with sanctions and then this kind of military intrusion into the country, that takes place here. Like the that these countries may have in regards to regime change and the typical overthrowing of the government militarily may be because of Libya and Syria. And I'm not talking about this from the standpoint of Americans. I'm talking about this from the standpoint of other nations that would have to deal with the havoc if that country implodes. But that's amazing. Good
so
on
it says
China.
that power did return to many parts of the country on Tuesday?
Let's see. Yeah, right. Power reports to many on Tuesday, including areas that had not had electricity since Thursday, according to witnesses on social media. The power was still out in parts of Caracas, the western region near the border of Colombia. That's also problematic since it's possible that that blacked out area will be an area for attack. Meaning not having electricity in a particular area also may have something to do with the defenses of that area. Yeah, at least my thinking, but I could be wrong. Either way, they're strangulating the country. They're strangling the country. I mean, think about what your life is like without electricity. Like when we've had storms here and all the lights go out. And by the way, I've been in the hospital where there was no power in the hospital. It is not a good place to be. Like, we're doing bad things. These things are on our conscience to some degree. Going back to the statement about reparations.
That's not.
Well, just real quick. Are we responsible for what's taking place in Venezuela?
I'm not.
But you're part of the country.
Our country is.
But you're part of that country.
So I'm held responsible.
I'm asking. I don't know the answer to that.
I think to a certain extent, and I think that someone in Venezuela might say that America as a whole
would have to pay reparations.
Well, yeah, it's responsible.
What about to Vietnam?
Them.
Let's say not this one. Let's say to Vietnam. Gulf of Tonkin, something that didn't happen. They got us involved into a larger conflict.
Is the United States at fault?
Yeah.
Or are they owed?
Are they owed reparations for it?
I'd say, yeah. There's a lot of people that we could be making.
I guess what I'm getting at is, as an African American, you're still to some degree held responsible for what your government does now that you're living in the country. Most whites didn't have anything to do with slavery from the standpoint of owning a slave. Like, the slaves were owned by like a small percentage of people in the country, even though the Civil War and all was fought over like the entirety of it. Is that similar to being white and living in a country that has slavery, even though you may not necessarily want slavery? Like, it's that Is that the same? I guess what I'm asking. In the same way that we attack countries now, we live in the country. Is that similar to whites living in the country now?
Yes.
So it's the government that pays reparations, not the individuals. I guess it's the point.
I think so, because I know that's kind of a maybe selfish standpoint. It's like, I didn't do it, but your country did. Your government allowed it to happen. So
I strongly suspect that's why whites are so reactively against. That wasn't me. I wasn't this racist prick. I didn't own slaves.
The government.
I just think it's interesting because I often have these things where I think to myself, "Fuck, man, this is on their conscience." Like, ultimately, you're living in a country, and that country has decided to run roughshod.
Doing a lot of bad shit all over the world.
Right, setting fires. If I was abroad, somebody could have just as well hit me in the head with a rock and would have been to some degree justified from the context of your country is doing X and you have some culpability from your country. Maybe I couldn't kill you, but maybe just that bruise on your head is your amount of culpability on the rock. I don't know, man. I'm always have a tough one with that because I don't necessarily know how to evaluate it. All right, let's go to the next one.
So our next topic, so like we talked about before, this is of course Patron Appreciation Show, and the topics that we try to use come from patrons submitting suggestions through the patron application or the patron program.
Yeah.
So if you're a patron, make sure that you log in. Like I said, I apologize earlier because usually each week we send out an announcement that says, don't forget, Patron Appreciation is Sunday. Submit your topics here. That post, unfortunately, somehow did not go up on Thursday like I thought it did. So thank you for the couple people who did send their topics through. We use those to try to get topics for today. And so Garden Gnome submitted, I think last week, and then a follow-up this week in regards to surveillance capitalism.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the next topic that we go into. He sent a YouTube video with a guest on Democracy Now! And it is linked down in the description box. I think it's about 22 minutes, so of course we're not going to show the whole video, but feel free to check it out at your leisure. But don't forget to submit your, or if it's not in the description box, is the other link in the description box?
Wait a minute, I'll put it
Did
in.
you make me a liar? It's going to be in the description box in just a moment. So that you can watch that whole video at your leisure. So thank you, Garden Gnome, for the link to this article or this video through Patreon. And don't forget, guys, if you're a patron, log in, submit your topics so we can check them out and discuss them on the show.
All right.
We like the suggestions. We're gonna get there in just
I need to get
moment. How's everybody doing today? Happy Sunday. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
God, it's freezing again.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties today, and had to do a computer restart right before the show, before we could go live. So it looks like it might be going slow again. I wanted to watch that, but I am boycotting Democracy Now! Oh, because Amy Goodman. Oh crap! What did that say?
Somebody's boycotting?
Yeah, I lost it. It scrolled away. Hold on, I wanted to watch that, referring to the video that we are referring to, but I'm boycotting Democracy Now! Because Amy Goodman accused Julian Assange for colluding with Roger Stone in Russia.
No way. I need to see that video.
Info elsewhere. Thank you. That comes from Creative
No
Experiments.
way. I did not know that. Say it ain't so.
We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But if so, blame it on Garden Gnome because he suggested the topic. Someone says, thanks. How you guys doing?
I gotta be honest, that's not enough for me to not watch them.
Happy St. Pat's, Mrs. Thomas. I hope Jamal is treating you well. He alright. Real News is a good news source. We look at Real News
Network.
Real
News. Yeah, I love Real News.
He pulls from there sometimes too. Clyde says he likes Amy. Amy sold out since 2016, ruined her reputation. Too wishy-washy. Oh, so a lot of people aren't like, or a couple people aren't liking Democracy Now! Garden Gnome says, I should be drinking today. Instead, I'm working. I guess that you are referring to the fact that it is St. Patrick's Day. If you didn't hear earlier, we are not wearing green. because of the green screen behind us. Do we have a photo to update back here?
We don't have a photo of the green screen.
We don't have green on because you can't see it, but the projector that allows this image is, of course, a big-ass green thing behind us.
Patron appreciation. I'm going to smoke on patron appreciation. Because
I don't have anything to do with that. You know I got asthma, right?
Yeah, I have no asthma.
Could you, hold on, we need a private moment. Could you not smoke that one right here?
You don't want me to smoke this thing? Oh, okay. Real enough. When I'm doing chess, this is still not smoke.
He gets into it and sometimes he smokes, and I asked him respectfully because, I mean, I do have like a legit inhaler and I take medicine and stuff like that. Like wheezing and stuff, and I think it's asthma even though it has not been officially diagnosed, so I would prefer that you don't do that.
Fair enough.
But what I was saying was, because it is St. Patrick's Day, you guys can't see it, but we do actually, for the first time ever, we do have 2 green screens today. So technically that's something green for St. Patrick's Day, even though we're not like drinking or anything.
Yeah.
So happy St. Patty's Day.
I smoke my liquor.
I don't smoke my liquor or drink my liquor. I eat it, I guess. Maybe that's my vice.
That's your liquor.
I like food.
We summon democracy with new law, with new regulatory regime. That turns out that security agencies were getting access to Google search data for experience and.
All right, so just as a primer on what's taking place, the conversation has to do with surveillance capitalism. Essentially, the capitalistic system providing and supplying tools to determine and predict customer behavior. Not to mention monitoring customer behavior. Like every new tool that I give you is also another new tool that I can use, especially if it's electronic. That information can go pretty much anywhere.
So people making money off of
surveillance,
peering into my life.
Yeah, and predicting what you're going to do.
Because that's where it comes in.
Because I used to, as a software engineer, one of the things I worked on was trying to predict. So the question became, can we use this data? We made this little machine, and this machine allowed kind of like a customer loyalty program, but in all companies. So think of it as instead of having a customer loyalty with one company, one card or one little device or one whatever allows you to do all of these stores. Now the argument at that point became, what can we do with the information? And then that's when it got interesting, because it was like coming up with programs where you could say, based on the person, where they shop, how they shop, what they spend, whatever information you have access to. Even if I don't know what you spend, by virtue of where you shop, that can be categorized and that can be put into an equation.
Determine like your salary, your income.
Right. What is this person more likely to buy? What can you advertise to this person more likely with? And that's just one company. That's a company that doesn't even exist yet. And you can someone write the algorithm for you can see how it breaks together. You're talking about companies like Google, like Facebook, like all of the data that's in all of these companies that we give over to these companies. Look at all the access that Google has all around the world.
So they're selling that to people. So that's why I said to Jamal. So if I was shopping earlier online for some shoes, and now I log into Facebook is asking me, do I want to buy these shoes? Well, how the hell did you know I was looking for some shoes?
Or are you going to be late for your airport or airplane?
Right.
That's another one.
That happened while we were traveling. And they were like, you need to leave in 30 minutes to get to the airport. And I was like, how you know I'm supposed to be at the airport?
Well, it's analyzing the stuff. Now, here's the catch.
It's reading your email.
But here's the catch. We give this over freely. And we even enjoy this. Like when I'm setting my calendar for Google Calendar. Well, that's a beneficial part of my life to some degree. Now, the secondary question is, but what are they using that information for? And what picture of your life does Google have? Meaning it knows where you are, it knows what you're looking up. Even if it has like, we're going to scramble your location, it still knows what you're looking up. And like all of that information about you is being held in a digital way. It has all of that information.
Somewhere in those terms and agreements that I don't read and most people don't read, I'm saying that it's okay for you to do stuff like sell it or make money off of this type of surveillance.
Microsoft. So when Microsoft came up with their new system, I think it was Windows 10 or something like that. One of the features that was in Windows 10 was allow these automatic updates where it can read your computer and send information back and forth. Even if you tell it no, it still goes through and does those processes. People are like, no, I don't want you looking into my computer for nothing. I don't give a shit about the updates. And it still was doing it. Like, but you can understand why. Capitalism tries to make profit in any area that it can. There's no, if you allowed it to have babies as workers,
They
would allow babies as workers. So it was like, hey, those little babies can get down into those small spaces. We can train it like a dog to do something like that. Yeah. I'm just saying. You get my point. The society itself, democracy, says, well, no, that's too far. That's too rapacious. That's even bad for us. But if you give them the opportunity to do it, they'll do it. Our problem is that our society grows, but our legal structure doesn't. Like the things that, like, we have these dramatic changes in our society, and the apparatus that we have in order to make laws and to try to turn and move society in a particular direction doesn't move fast enough to keep up with the changes of the society itself. It's almost like laws are always behind times in regards to acclimating to society. In this case, you have capitalism that has grown up around this notion of information. How much of your information can I get? How much of that information can I sell? Now, that's sometimes to other private companies, but that's also sometimes to the government of the United States, who also wants that information. Hell, they may even want a pipeline in general so they can even access that much more information. Like, I guess my point is this. Those things are magnificently beneficial in regards to how ease of use. Our going from point A to point B.
Everyday life.
Yeah, right. They come in handy in our everyday life. But what you give up is privacy in the process of that, and the conversation of what are these things? What should be the laws around these things? Is there such thing as privacy left? Do we need to expand the meaning of privacy in order to deal with these companies themselves? Should some of these companies be public? I mean, because you're talking about the common space, like our commons at this point has become things like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Yeah. That's where people talk.
It's just our everyday.
But you don't own any of it. Like, it's like, even though you use that medium all the time, that's information that's been captured by private enterprise. It's like private enterprise has captured the commons. If they get rid of you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and you might have a website somewhere, but nobody knows you, you're in the fucking wilderness. It's like, I'm talking about the Alex Jones treatment. This is, it's like, of course capitalism is going to go in this area because it's capitalism. If they can make a buck, they're going to make a buck.
Darren Alevi says, yep, same with the Amazon Alexa and Google Echo.
Yes. And remember, the television at that point was watching you. Like, when they broke into the CIA thing, when WikiLeaks published those documents, it published that the television itself was watching the individual in the room. That's amazing. Like, that's the shit that they're putting in television. Now, the first thing they would say is, but those fucking Russians were spying on people. You were too. You were too. Like, I understand there's a difference in the societies, there's a difference in the countries, but we demonize Putin all the time and missing the point that some of the stuff we do too. We do too.
Gardenome says the implications are wide-ranging. Slow News Day says the Unabomber was right about most of this shit. More evidence that corporations, Creative Experiments says more evidence that corporations are run by rich people with fake degrees. These companies are going to be found completely illegal entities soon.
The other part, getting with AI. At some point, we're going to have AI doing the killing. So we're going to say, look, we don't want it on the pilot's conscience. It fucks up some pilots. So let's take it out of the hands of the pilot themselves, kind of like cars. And at some point, when these factors are given, we're going to strike. At this point, we're going to allow the computer itself to make the determination of whether or not it kills the human being. Now, this is where we're going with this if it's not already there. Essentially, a machine that can make those choices. Because the machine, from the standpoint of them, can make those choices because these are discrete things that we give to say whether or not we should strike. And if we do that with a person, that person is going to be a killer also, just as much as the machine could be a killer because it just uses factors. The hope was that the individual can say, well, wait a minute, that's something else, meaning it have a larger context into what's taking place. But when they send those pilots out there, those pilots go out and they do the job that those pilots were sent to do. They're going to kill. Same thing with the drones that they create. Like, this is insane. We're going to have robots killing other human beings. Like, we already have it now, flying killing robots, the drones. But those drones are going to start getting more technology that allows the drone itself to make more of the decisions in the process. Mark my words. Mark my words.
So, just to read some comments, because this is actually, seems like this is prompting a pretty good conversation in the chat. A lot of times the conversation goes all over the place. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Burn Your Bro says, we're all now identified genetically, even though we never put our junk up for analysis, because the other idiots who put theirs up. Friend of a friend on Facebook. But it's identity with genetics. So that's true. Skip Rock, I thought this was funny, so I wanted to read this out loud. Skip Rock says, always have 5 or 6 windows of porn going so they don't know what you're really into. Good advice, Skip Rock. Thanks for sharing that one.
I love that. It's like you keep them guessing, man. Yeah. It's like they don't know if I'm here for this Russian porn or this squirt video or this, blacked video or something like that. It's like this guy.
Or anime porn.
Do you know John? Mark the name. But one day he asked me, he said something about something called blacked. And I was like, John,
racist.
I said, well, John, what the hell are you talking about? Right, because it sounds real racist. I was like, blacked? He says, you've never heard of that? I said, no, I've never heard of that. What the hell is that? He says, that's porn with white women having these black men with these huge dongs just kind of, banging them out. And I'm like, first, is that what you look at?
Let's talk about this.
If you're having this conversation with me, to some degree, it's like, it's like, he's into it. Now, I remember another time, though, some guys do get into this, like the opposite race thing. Just because of the cultural stuff, it becomes a taboo. And taboos, like for example, women's breasts. Only reasons women's breasts are big deals because those are not exposed to the society. If our society walked around with women's breasts exposed in the same way with men's breasts, it would no big deal. Same thing with nudity. Now, nudity is slightly different because if you're sitting on the bus, I don't want your penis or your ass on the bus, on the thing. So there's a little difference there, but you get my point. The nudity itself becomes a taboo just because the nudity itself is kept as a taboo. If people were exposed to it growing up, they wouldn't think of it one way or the other. It would just be the person that's wearing clothes or not.
That's what it is.
But that's not true with things of race. Like, the taboo that creates off of a person's breasts or off of, the genitalia or whatever else, because those things are exposed to them. The same thing is sometimes true about the cultural thing for race. Meaning you have somebody who's like white who gets off on watching white women get banged out by black men because of cultural stuff. It's like, it's like the slave master or the slave going back to the slave master. Now, they would never admit that, but that's the taboo.
Do you remember?
At least I think that's the taboo.
Okay, so since we're veering way the fuck off topic.
Yeah, we are way in the weeds.
Do you remember? Okay, so I saw this article a couple months ago where they were talking about check out some of the Netflix shows that are not American made, and we started watching that show called Chewing Gum. It was really, really crass where the girl was like trying to have sex for the first time.
Oh, right.
And she ends up, she's dark skinned. I was going to say African American, but she's African. She lives in London, and she hooks up with this white guy. And the first time they're getting intimate, he starts saying some really tricky stuff, and like he starts using like racial slurs. And she's like, we were sitting there watching like, what did he say? And it escalates and gets more inappropriate. And then the next time she's with him, she's dressed in like this tribal garb and is like chanting and doing like African drumming and dancing and it's just, but come to find out that was just his fetish. He went out and found African women or black women and had them reenact.
And by the way, that goes both ways, by the way. Like it maybe not necessarily fetishes. Like black, but like there's, I mean, everybody has their own taboos, so it is what it is. But that particular one, like him saying black, I was like, what the hell?
Somebody said I look like I don't want to talk about this. Oh, I don't mind. I did see another one. I've been watching a lot of TV. Not a lot of TV. I'm not a big TV watcher, but one of the other shows I checked out is one called Working Moms, and I like it because it's kind of like moms that they start the show where they're sitting around in like this moms group where all these new mothers like have their kids and they're like trying to give support for each other, but they talk about just random shit. And the last episode, the girls are talking about how they watch porn, and they're like, one of them is like, no, I always thought it was weird. It was like watching somebody go to the bathroom, and they were like, no, it's not like that at all. And so they start talking about, one of them talked about how she watches porn for tips, and they were like, tips like what? And she's like, like
sex tips,
right? Like how, like positions.
Otherwise, how would you know?
One of them said she gets her sex voice from porn, and they were like, what? And she's like, so I I was watching this porn and I kind of like the noises that this lady made. Yeah. And so she starts making the noises and everybody's like, what the hell is that you're doing? Long story short, come to find out she watches anime porn. And it's like the whole episode is centered greatly around her telling her husband, people at work, about the fact that she likes anime porn. And in the porn, it's like women who are playing like this really submissive role, like one of them is like she's a bunny in a forest and like the wolf comes and like they end up it's really weird, but that's what this reminded me of. And this, if we're gonna go completely off topic, that's
hilarious.
That's what I'm sharing.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Everybody has their taboos, man.
And it's funny because I watch anime.
I never would have thought of watching anime porn.
No, but like on Pornhub, they have like an anime thing. Don't they have like anime stuff?
Do they? You sound like you knew.
I'm just saying.
What you watch? No,
I know that anime porn exists. Are we whispering now?
No.
I know that anime porn does exist.
Like
everybody's got all whatever. I don't know how we got here.
Used to be heavy into anime, and porn was some of the stuff she used to watch.
I don't need that information in my life.
You did. You were talking about anime porn. You bored up.
Not anybody that I actually knew.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
All right, I don't know how we got here. Yeah, your mom said we're really going off the deep end.
Yeah. Wait, the black thing. I know that's how we got there. That's. Some people will say, "Oh God, he's racist," but it's not. It's just that.
What do you mean he's racist? Because he wants to see someone.
And that's kind of the opposite of racist. If that's what
if you want to see a black man having sex, I don't think that means you're racist.
No, I'm teasing. I'm saying that there are some lefties who will be over the top of saying, that's like you're prioritizing race in regards to your sexual thing. Oh, that's besides the point. Jaleel, same thing. So, but in his case, he was at a strip club, and I was with him this day, so I know this happened. We're at a strip club, and we go. This woman is like, "Hey, would you like a lap dance?" And this always weirded me out because it's like she's looking you in the eye, and it's like, oh God, it's like I'm not having sex with this woman, and so her looking at me in this kind of a lustful way, she doesn't know me from anybody, so she's making this up. Keep in mind, for me, porn has to be real. I don't like these Herculean men who just massive cocks and they just go on for like hours. I like real people because I think those are human beings. Everything else feels like an exploitive relationship to me, where cash is being used to leverage these people into having sex. Like it feels weird. It's like capitalistic exploitation at its worst. But nevertheless, we're at the strip club, and I see Jaleel getting a lap dance. Now, I finally tell one woman yes. What's it, Cupcake? Sunshine? Sparkle. I tell Sparkle yes. And so Sparkle gets back. She says, would you like to hold on to my ass? And I was like, I don't need to do that. Just, let's get this over with. I'm already creeped out. I see Jaleel getting a lap dance. And it's this white woman who's giving him a lap dance. And so I go out, and we finally meet out. And he says, yeah, this white guy paid me money to get a lap dance from this woman. And he paid for the lap dance twice. And as he said, he has a thing for seeing white women dance on black guys. That was his thing. That was his fetish. And so he would pay for Jaleel to have multiple dances on this. I'm like, Jaleel, that's not, like, doesn't creep you out a little bit? Like, it creeped me out. I thought it was so odd. And in retrospect now, I guess at this point, I just look at it as somebody's kink.
See the Change says, what is going on right now? See the Change. I don't fucking know. I don't know how we got here. This went really bad, really fast. We were talking about blame Garden Gnome because we were talking about surveillance capitalism. Yeah. Somebody said something about porn and how to
off to the races.
And this 10 minutes later,
I would say it this way though. Our only real problem with surveillance capitalism is that it's in private hands. If we're really being honest, like our government is dysfunctional. That's true. But what we're talking about is all of our information that's being used to make our lives easier. It's being used for potentially nefarious purposes, either in corporate America or in a governmental system. If we believed that this information was being used purely to our betterment, there would be no issue. Like the only reason we're talking about this is because we believe it's going to be used in some horrible way. This is kind of like Uber to me. Where the problem with Uber is that it's been owned in private hands. If you had a system where you just hit a button, a car comes, picks you up, and drops you off at point A, point B. It's solar powered, so it goes on forever, and it goes for a checkup. World's perfect. You can have this to run at cost if you're a government at that point, you know, in the same way that you can deal with public transportation and that type of stuff. Have that leverage under those, in which case if a person needs to get from point A to point B, they can get it, or they have a massive public infrastructure that allows them to go where they don't necessarily need to call an Uber. Like, if you want to deal with climate change and get towards some of the issues that are affected. Yeah, I know the people are going to call me a commie. I'm not a communist, but I do consider sometimes our problems with this stuff. Like, what if we owned Amazon? Like, not us as human beings, us as a larger system.
Country,
and when people needed stuff, they had a system that allows them to get from point A to point B. Because whatever you want to think of Bezos, the company he's created is phenomenal. They don't make squat. They just transfer things from point A to point B and do it in this phenomenal way. You need to pay those workers more. Some of those jobs need to be phased out and automated. And other changes need to take place to allow people to be able to do their job in a safe way that doesn't have them trying to kill themselves to do it. But a phenomenal thing. I mean, you know, it's like you call for something and tomorrow it's here. Or you call for groceries and they bring it here. Ooh. They call for... I'm just making the point that in and of itself, outside of the context of what it does to small businesses or what it does in regards to like lowering wages and that type of stuff, just saying from the construct itself, it's an amazing organization of energy. You know, it's like an idea made flesh.
Starts to get a problem because it's like, how's it being used? And, you know, who's getting it?
And how much wealth is being created from it and that type of stuff. When the United States government invested money into the internet, the United States government should have gotten a kickback for the money that invested into the internet. I don't understand this thing, how us, public, can invest in stuff and then all of a sudden, you know,
you're kicked out of
you're kicked out of the process. It's like you socialize the profits, or you privatize the profits and you socialize what it takes to get there. I mean, it's like we're paying for shit. Like right now, it's a weird thing that we, for the most part, pay for the funding of the internet. And whatever percentage that is, hell, said if that's 10%, but these other companies are making bang for buck on that, on the internet in this case. Like some of the stuff, I just think it's like we're being charged for stuff that we shouldn't be charged for if we're running it as a collective society. The buses are that way to me. We should own our bus networks. We should own our train networks. We should own our energy infrastructure. There are certain things that I think we should own. There's another area where I think, have at it, you know. But certain things that are necessary for the government and the world to function, or the society to function, meaning people must get from point A to point B. I don't want that in private hands. I want to own that. People must get in their train locations. Like, there are certain things that must be done. I don't think I'm even all that upset about competition in those areas to some degree. It's, I don't know. It's just some of these things are, I don't think should be in private hands. And trains are that way.
Surveillance capitalism.
Yep.
I like it. When we first got this video, it was like, it seemed a little complex to really have the conversation. When she starts talking about it, it starts to make more sense. Yeah.
When she's, you know, explaining what it is and the capitalism that comes over, like disaster capitalism. Capitalism made up after a disaster. So Puerto Rico gets destroyed, and then you have the capitalists to come in and say, yes, we're going to make a ton of cash off of these people's misery and destruction. Same thing. I mean, well, similar things, but...
Burn Your Bro says we need an economy that works for the 99% and not the 0.001%. Yes. Very true.
That's absolutely true. All right. And let's go to... See, I was thinking about Samir Khan. Oh, Bernie Sanders fell in the shower.
He didn't fall in the shower. He did not fall in the shower. Just to be clear, he had an injury. He walked. He did not hit the ground into a shower door made out of glass and had to get 7 stitches in his head.
He walked. He didn't fall.
He did not fall. He did not fall.
Are you sure?
But he alright.
Because
Bernie's good.
This looks bad.
It looks bad.
And they're going to use this picture.
But trust me, he's fine.
I am guaranteeing you.
Who is they? Who's going to use this picture to burn down Bernie?
Somebody that doesn't like Sanders is going to use...
Bernie's... Ew, I'm not reading that out loud. Skip Rock almost got my ass. Slow news day. That happens to me all the time. Can't tell you how often I just stroll into shower doors. Now, one of the reasons why I don't know if I brought this up or not, but he and I were talking about it earlier, and what I said was, I get on social media a lot, and I kind of look at this stuff and I want to see how people are commenting. And one guy said, you know, I saw this, and like many people are going to have, he had the knee-jerk reaction of, oh my gosh, this old dude fell in the shower.
Right.
And he said,
they're going to use this picture, man.
I looked at him and I saw this geriatric dude, you know, slipped and fell in the shower. And he said, and then I watched him that afternoon or that same day that he gave the speech, and the passion and the vigor kind of made his qualms fade away. He said, I didn't see him any longer as like this decrepit old senior citizen. He's just as rigorous. I don't know if that was the word that he used. I'm paraphrasing, but I guess what I'm saying is, despite the fact that he had an injury, and then somebody else was like, I'm 30 years old, I injure myself, you know, he could just be clumsy. It doesn't mean... One of the things that people hit Bernie with a lot is that he's 77, that whole ageism thing.
Yeah,
but then he shows up and he's like, I tripped in the fell in the shower. It was like, where was your life alert, dude? Like, is that inappropriate too soon? In life alert thing, the people like, help, I've fallen, I can't get up. Can you wear those in the shower?
I think so, yeah.
But they did say that he didn't fall. Something happened. I don't know if he tripped, fell, not fell. Don't use the word fell. But he tripped and bumped into the glass shower.
All right, let's fact check my wife here, because she's given a strong case for Sanders.
I'm kind of, you know, paraphrasing
Senator
a little bit.
Bernie Sanders got 7 stitches Friday after he cut his head on the shower door. Police reports, Politico reports, Sanders was given a clean bill of health, and the minor injury did not interrupt his campaigning. The 2020 Democratic presidential candidate is currently stomping in South Carolina. Sanders spokeswoman Ariana Jones told Politico that the 77-year-old senator, was a senior, took himself to a walk-in minute clinic Friday out of precaution. The senator has proceeded with all of the scheduled events, joining a group of approximately 20 locals and clergy for breakfast this morning, and looks forward to joining a roundtable with South Carolina this afternoon to discuss how we can provide high-quality, affordable health care for all, Jones said.
Hurry up and get to that next one.
Politico noted that the campaign told the outlet that Sanders cut his head on the corner of the glass door,
but did not fall. Bernie did not fall.
He refused to fall.
I like it.
So this cut is not going to break me like
it's not going to hold me down.
Broke me in 2016.
Pictures. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Pictures of Sanders Friday showed him with a large bandage on his head. Yeah, right here.
It does look rough. Y'all couldn't give him a better bandage than that.
That bandage is massive. That bandage is huge.
Don't they have like flesh-colored band-aids nowadays? It's like somebody puts a big-ass piece of procedure tape, and it just... Yeah.
That doesn't look good. He shouldn't avoid that. He wore a cap in the other thing when he gave his speech. I think he wasn't in Brooklyn. I forget where. But the speech he gave the other day, he had a cap on. The cap was hiding the bandage.
Hiding the stitches.
Because I was like, is that a bandage on his head? I gotta be honest, man. Sanders, you gotta do better than this. You gotta do better than this, man.
You gotta be better than having an injury?
You should be
blaming. That's victim blaming.
You can't fall in the fucking shower.
He didn't fall.
You know what I mean.
Bernie did not fall.
Actually,
don't spread that around.
We don't know what happened. We know what they told us.
I believe it.
Okay. I don't believe or disbelieve it. I'm just saying, an event happened with a shower. He technically said he didn't fall, but something took place with Bernie Sanders in a shower that ended up with him having a huge bandage on his head. I'm just saying that he shouldn't. You can't make those mistakes.
Hitflix said it looks like a World War II war bandage. That's what I'm saying. That is a rough. Look at that. That is a rough looking bandage. Like you didn't have to send Bernie out looking like that. I mean, he looks like he got a pad on his head. I'm
just saying the problem with this is
it's like him drinking water while he was doing the response to the State of the Union, and people were like,
it just looks bad. Like here's the thing. You're a 77-year-old man. You're running for president of the United States. You'll be the oldest president elected if you were to get that election. And the first thing that comes up is, yeah, but is he going to die in office? That's a grim, cynical perspective, but I'm just saying. That's a perspective of somebody who has some age on him. I mean, the same thing was said about John McCain with Sarah Palin. It's like, he already had like a stroke or something. We're going to, let the guy in office. So with Sanders, the question is going to come up also. How fit and vigorous is he to be able to run this office. Now, I've seen Sanders campaigning for the past, 4 or 6 years at this point, because he's never stopped campaigning from before. And still makes his senator things.
His clinic? Oh,
his Senate stuff, when he's out there, still doing the job. So don't misunderstand me. I have no questions about the vigor of Sanders. Not to mention, after taking that wound, the pretty, grotesque wound, he still got up and didn't stop campaigning.
Right. Didn't miss a beat.
It couldn't take him down. But from the looks of it, it looks like an old man fell in the shower and that they had to put a huge bandage on his head.
Slipped and fell in the shower. Now, to be fair, do you remember when we were in Egypt?
Mm-hmm.
And
he fell in the shower?
Shower. Didn't we fall in the shower? Oh, I fell getting out of the shower. Never mind. John Hill says, I think Jane Sanders is beating him.
That's another one. He could have said, Jane hit me by accident.
Would that have been better or worse than tripping into the shower door?
Better. She accidentally hit me.
No.
Okay, so wait. So you think him...
So you don't feel like he's inept physically...
But I don't want...
If his wife beats him. But if he accidentally runs into a door...
Wait a minute. Where are you getting this language? I didn't say she beat him. I said she accidentally hit him on the head.
You didn't say she accidentally hit me. You said Jane punched me in the face.
I didn't say that.
So you're saying Bernie should have said his wife accidentally hit him?
Yeah.
That would have sounded like...
That she beats him.
Oh, I ran into a doorknob. Or I tripped and fell down the steps. Like, they have like victims of domestic violence. And they're like, I ran into the wall.
Jane beats me.
Maybe. You know what? Now that we're having this conversation now, I don't think this is what happened. But if he was a victim of domestic violence, wouldn't he say some off the wall stuff like, oh, I ran into the shower door?
Can he play that as a Me Too thing?
I don't know.
Like, Me Too,
Did
Jane
anybody
Sanders beats me, and he comes out the closet with that, and he blames his wife for beating him. Does that make him president? Like, do you automatically become president? Say, men can be victims of domestic violence too, and he comes out and says, Me Too! I'm Bernie Sanders, Me Too!
Why are you screaming?
Because that's what Bernie Sanders would do. Do you feel
don't
it?
Scream like that.
Would that guarantee him the presidency at that point?
No.
Why wouldn't it? He's coming out as a man being beaten and as a victim with the Me Too movement.
Do you think maybe that's what this is a setup for?
I don't know.
We are just leaps and bounds today.
But, I'm just saying that bandage is massive.
It's a rough bandage.
The bandage is massive.
Lita Gray, I'm going to read this out loud because she says you're getting on her nerves. Lita Gray says, Jamal, you're beginning to get on my nerves. Bernie doesn't care what he looks like. He cares about what he has always cared about, us. That's fine and dandy.
You know I'm joking.
But other people care what Bernie looks like, which is kind of why we're having this conversation.
I don't care about Bernie Sanders having a bandage on his head.
But people do.
Short of Bernie Sanders coming out in blackface, I don't necessarily care about what Sanders has on him. Like, I guess my point is, I don't care.
What if he had like a swastika? You would give Bernie a pass for a swastika?
Well, what is he wearing it for? He's Jewish.
This is like the time you told me if your mom was a zombie, you'd let her eat people and it would be fine.
It is not. I'm actually, well, that's different. But I'm saying, what is he wearing it for? Does he have a reason for wearing it? I don't want to jump to conclusions. What's he wearing it for?
I don't know. This also reminds me of Al Sharpton saying he would never say anything.
Yeah, he would never say anything about Obama.
Don't get into that. But
clearly, I do videos against Sanders.
I know, but this is, yeah.
Well, you just tarred the man as a Nazi. I'm asking why is he wearing a Nazi badge?
I said, what if he came out with
I'm asking why. I'm saying why. What is the reasoning?
I don't know. In this hypothetical world that I would see Bernie Sanders
with
a swastika.
But you posited this hypothetical world. I'm saying that the hypothetical world needs to have some reasoning for him having a swastika.
I'm sorry that I ever brought us anywhere near the hypothetical world. That was a bad idea.
Just asking. People do things for reasons. Sometimes those reasons are removed from us.
Badness. Darren Levy says Jamal would unleash his zombie mom on Aisha.
I would keep her in the basement. I wouldn't let her out.
You got a plan.
Going after people.
In this video, that's what they did. They kept the mom. I think
he killed her. Yeah, he killed her. Yeah, when he found out she killed all those people,
all things being equal, though, I think that if my mother-in-law was turned into a zombie, she wouldn't eat me.
I'd kill her.
What?
I mean, not your mother-in-law. If your mom was a zombie, she wouldn't get my same leeway.
We'll talk about that later. I feel a little bit, you were way too aggressive and absolute on that.
Your mom she was killing people.
So
she
was
killed
yours.
like 22,000 people.
So was yours. Who got 22,000 people?
I thought, if I'm not mistaken, that town had like 20,000 people in that town where she killed.
All I'm
saying, she killed a lot of people.
I was trying to say that your mom and I are tight. And even if she was a zombie, she would have the same undying love for me as a zombie. And she wouldn't attack me. And you blurted out that you would kill my mother. Just saying.
If your mom was a zombie,
I'm just saying,
you would really unleash that zombie on the world like that?
That wasn't even the conversation that we were
I'm asking you though.
If my mom was a zombie?
Yeah. If your mom was a zombie and she killed like 1,000 people. And you would just be giving her
I wouldn't
pass?
kill her. I would find a way to make her stop killing people.
How?
Lock her, like you said, lock her up in the basement or
what
something.
What if she desiccates in the basement?
You mean like goes to the bathroom?
No, not defecate.
Like kills people.
Like no, she shrivels up because she's not eating. Like
I'll probably have to feed her.
Like right. So you're gonna end up killing people to feed her.
Maybe that would be better than her just randomly killing people. Like maybe I would go out and like find bad people for.
So you're gonna be Batman.
Fucking for my mom. Yeah, dude.
So you're gonna, just so I'm clear, you're gonna go out and you yourself are gonna kill people so your mom can eat people in order to keep your zombie mom in the basement.
To keep her alive.
Wow, that's hardcore. That's hardcore.
That's if I have to slay someone.
I gotta be honest. If I found out that you were killing people and your mom was a zombie in the basement, we'd have to have a conversation about this relationship. And
about how you're not helping. Well, why am I doing all the work to feed my mother? Okay, this is retarded. I don't know. Sorry, I should have said the word retarded. This is terrible. Jimmy Dore's illegitimate son says, thank you for the super chat, illegitimate son. He says, it's ridiculous for people to make a big deal how Bernie looks with a bandage and give Obama a pass for 8 years in office. Pretending in blackface.
Oh, that's a burn. That's a burn. Look, I don't care how Bernie looks. I don't care if Bernie gets a bandage on his head. But let's be very clear. There are going to be some people who say, that old man fell in the shower. And that's as far as they're going to go. That's going to be the language. That old man fell in the shower. That geriatric fell in the shower. And they're going to run with that. That's why I don't like him having a bandage. And that's why I'm saying he shouldn't have fell in the shower.
And this was the conversation. He and our conversation started on that topic because I was on social media and I saw the story about how he had bandages. Some people were saying, let's give $1 for every stitch that he has. I don't believe he's going to slow down a beat. I still love Bernie. But a couple people were saying, ooh, he burned. You know, I mean, people who don't like Bernie are going to see this as, something to use against him. So it's, I mean, if it's a conversation that people are having, I think it's a valid conversation.
I thought it was more funny, to be honest, because I looked at it as, oh, Jesus Christ, he got that big ass bandage on his head. That looks bad. But that's as far as it went for me. It just looks bad. Like, I care about the politics of it. How do you he can't get a flesh tone head or something?
A flesh tone band-aid. That's what I said.
But I'm talking about a big one that could just come around like in his first part of his head.
He's with his hair brain surgery. Brain surgery.
Well, what? Well, no, you can't say surgery. I mean, I guess I'm saying you need to make something up about that, though. I mean, nothing in the shower, though.
Your mom said, Diane, hi, says he needs a walk-in shower. No, he doesn't, because he's not an old person that can shower himself. He does not need a walk-in shower. He had one little incident in his 77 years on this planet. I fell in the shower before. Jamal bangs and cuts, hurts himself all the time. It's fine.
I haven't hurt myself in a long time.
Okay.
Don't be including me on this throwing under the bus in order to protect
Sanders. All right.
So Theresa May. Let's talk about Theresa May, the UK. Do you know anything about it?
No.
Even though I tell you about it all the time.
I didn't see this one.
Theresa
Is this
May,
one of the times where you were updating me on something and I was doing something else?
I mean, babe, even if you aren't anything else, oftentimes you don't be.
Edward Klein says Bernie should have said he got in a bar fight. No, because then people would have been having conversations about him like being violent and
Bernie was in a bar fight. It's like, see, his supporters are animals and maniacs, and this is why. But you also would have had a contingent of people saying, wow, that was pretty badass that Bernie Sanders beat that guy up in a bar fight.
Did you see, I think it was in Australia, some politician, not very well liked, some people were saying he was racist. This kid, I think
Tommy
he was
Robinson.
17. No,
Oh.
I said Australia.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This kid went up in the middle of a press conference
Hit him
and
with an
hit him with
I
an
saw
egg.
that. Walked up and was like,
He was recording himself while he did it too. And then 4 adults tackled the kid to the ground.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I mean, you've just violently assaulted somebody with that fucking egg. It's like you're using an egg as a weapon. I mean, clearly the egg's not going to kill him. It's only
Yeah,
there
he
to
got
humiliate
egged.
him. Yeah. All right, so Theresa May.
All right, so tell me about this because if you did tell me, I apologize.
I give you
retain it.
just a quick one. David Cameron calls a Brexit vote with no intention of believing that the people were going to vote for Brexit, kind of like Trump. David Cameron was wrong. People did vote for Brexit, and he resigned his prime ministership immediately when they voted for Brexit.
Right.
Theresa May comes in with one job: get Brexit. First, figure out what Brexit is, and once you figure out what it is, implement the policy of Brexit. Problem: half of the country, like 51% or so, wants it. 49% doesn't, but that also is true for Parliament, meaning you have a split Parliament that can't get it over the finish line. Theresa May has to either deal with the racist vote, with people, you mean, because they use racism in order to try to sell that bill, but either use the vote of keeping immigrants out or financial interests. Which one you want to get into? If you go financial interests, you're going to keep in relationships together. If you go with the other interests, then you're going to go towards more immigration, and your policy kind of conforms.
Right.
So Theresa May was trying to split the baby because there was no way she can get any of it through Parliament. So she does 2 years, drains down the clock. The other day comes up with a vote for a withdrawal bill back in December. Theresa May realizes that the withdrawal bill she spent 2 years making was going to get voted down. And Theresa May still, the entire time, she postponed it. Now this was massive. Her, in and of itself, her postponed it, but she postponed it. After postponing it, she comes back after a month trying to get something, trying to get the members of the bite and trying to get members of the European Union to agree to certain elements of it.
Get on board.
None of that took place. And in staggering historic numbers, her bill was voted down. Meaning the government of the country, who were supposed to be most, she is a hung government, but the majority are conservatives. Many of them voted against her own plan. They shut her down. The government's in chaos. There is no backup plan. There is only this plan, Theresa May's plan, that the country hates and that currently Parliament hates. So
now what?
She brings it up for a vote again because she was compelled by Parliament, because Parliament starts taking powers from the government, because the government starts trusting government. So she brings it up for a vote, and she was compelled to come and tell Parliament what she was going to do for the next bill. So Withdrawal Bill 2.0 was essentially Withdrawal Bill 1.0 with one exception. She's going to go to the European Union and get them to change the backstop, the withdrawal agreement. That's the thing that they hated. This idea that they could be stuck in the European Union without the ability to pull themselves out, because the European Union wanted to have, let's say, Britain on one side, them on the other side, and then an independent arbiter, which meant that Britain by itself as a country couldn't discharge itself from the agreement if it wanted to discharge itself from the agreement. The people flipped out. You're going to make our country subservient to the European project. So she comes back and she tries to get it. So she says, give me a month. If I'm not mistaken, she takes a month. And again, they leave on March 29th, which means that she ran the clock all the way down to March. And when they took that vote, she still failed in historic numbers. There is no Part B. Theresa May has gotten everything that she could get out of the European Union. That's it. There's no else. The European Union says we're not negotiating anymore on this. This is all you're going to get. And it doesn't matter if we negotiate with you because you can't get anything through Parliament in the first place. So she finally comes back somber, realizing that her plan has failed. And she kind of makes this point like completely defeated. All right, we're going to bring up these other bills. Meaning, do you want a no-deal Brexit? Do you want extended time for the referendum? And even with the extended time for the referendum, that is not something she can unilaterally enforce. Meaning the European Union has to approve that extended time for the execution of the bill.
What's WTO?
World Trade Organization rules.
ID Warp, IDWARP, I don't know, said there is a backup plan, a no-deal WTO exit, and that would be the best thing considering the situation.
So I hear...
What do you think about that?
I hear a lot of people who are into Brexit keep saying that. Like they would say...
WTO?
Yeah, the World Trade Organization rules. That's what Can't think of the guy's name. The guy with the monocle. That's his. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what a monocle is.
No. The guy who wears it. It's
No, I said I know what a monocle is. Who? No.
Rees-Mogg. That's the argument Rees-Mogg makes. When you get Rees-Mogg in a difficult situation, we can just use WTO rules and blah blah blah. That's not really true. I mean, you can do that, but that doesn't stop your country from hitting chaos. Like, understand, what they're trying to negotiate right now is just the framework for negotiations later on. This is not even the deal itself. They're just trying to say, what are the contexts of the deal that we can agree on?
Deal?
Right.
Yeah.
What are the parameters of it? Rees-Mogg is like, we can just go with WTO rules. The problem is Rees-Mogg got caught on an interview show where the guy made the point to him, my business sends things across the border. You are going to destroy my business when you go through with this Brexit, particularly if you go through with the kind of Brexit you want to go with. Rees-Mogg had no real solutions for that guy, what that guy was talking about, because Rees-Mogg didn't care. They just want to make whatever argument they can to get it over the finish line. They don't care what World Trade Organization rules means from that standpoint. It's just something that they can use to argue with you on to create enough political leeway, space for people who are in the Brexit debate or people who want a Brexit for other reasons to agree with what he's saying. Does that make sense? Kind of like Republicans here making the argument of why cutting Medicare is good. They just want people who agree with Republicans to be able to argue their point.
I do. That makes sense. I'm reading you these comments because I don't have a good background on this. So when the audience is responding, I think that's a valid. I think it's good to say that.
But let me just say this: it's not. When Britain has been with the European Union for 40 years, something like 40, 50 years at this point, and extricating yourself from something like that, because it's just going to cause chaos. It is what it is. And the government is talking about like storing food and drugs, and they're now some of this can be said, they're fear mongering. That's the other thing. But just because they're fear mongering doesn't necessarily mean everything they're saying is wrong.
Right, it's untrue.
Yeah. Both things can be true at the same time.
Darren says WTO is short-term pain for long-term gain. Staying in the EU is status quo and long-term pain.
That's the argument.
Trudy says WTO is anti-worker and anti-sovereign nation.
Yeah. So two things. Countries can agree on rules for their trading. The goal of it is just to not have rules that fuck over the other country. Like, you're trying to find some kind of fair equilibrium between the two when you're doing something. But this idea of fairness is, it's not absolute. If your country is going to make rules to trade with other countries, then by definition, you're not going to get everything you want. Like, those countries are going to have things that they want. They're going to have things that you want, in which case you're making some kind of agreement to give up certain things to get others. Kind of like with being in a country, you give up certain rights, like to kill people, in order to be in a country that doesn't kill people. That makes sense. So the WTO, any trade organization that you get yourself involved in, is going to be limiting in some degree, even though the thought is you get other benefits. In this case, you have trade rules that allows you to interact with one another as nations. So fair enough, the trade thing being anti-sovereign nation. Yes, in a sense that any trade organization you make is going to be anti-sovereign nation because they're going to want you to change the rules. Yeah. As the other point, what did she say? Anti-worker. That may be true. I don't know enough about it in that case, but that may be true. I don't know enough about the working guidelines. But I will say this: one or two things. There's a difference in what Britain looks like under a conservative government outside of the European Union and a British government outside the Labour government outside the European Union. And then Jeremy Corbyn wasn't on board for this either, by the way. He didn't like Britain being in the European Union, even though he's making the argument for it now. It is pain, and it will be pain. I would imagine at some point Britain will, recover from it. Most countries, most people do. People have been in horrible situations, and those people have been able to recover. I don't think this is a horrible situation per se. But short-term pain, I would just expect that, right? I mean, for something that traumatic and that big.
I was going to say, I don't know if you're going to be able to get away from that completely unscathed.
Yeah. Jeremy Corbyn and some of these guys were against it because it didn't allow them to implement the policies they wanted. So Corbyn, for example, if he wanted to get nationalize the railways, well, the European Union may not like him doing that. Or if he wants to enact some sort of policy, there's some policy considerations that Jeremy Corbyn may be pushing that may be running afoul of the European Union. I heard a conversation with Galloway and somebody else discussing this, saying that if Corbyn wanted to enact his policies, he's going to have to be out the European Union in order to pull it off. That it's somewhat anti-democratic, but it's also anti-nation state that wants to essentially be a socialist government. So I mean, they're conservatives want to scrape the country to the bone. Think of the conservatives here, like cut healthcare, education, etc. Like cut all those things to the bone, including cutting the corporate tax rate and all this other stuff. So that's what they want. From the standpoint of the European Union has certain policies in place that the conservative government, they want to be more capitalistic because they're more right wing in comparison to the European Union. I'm trying to think of it's like fishing stuff. It's like some of the stuff is it seems arbitrary, but it's clear that that's what they want. When Boris Johnson and these guys are pushing we want to be out there, the European Union, it's because they want to have a conservative government where they cut taxes to the bone. They just like the conservatives here.
Yeah.
So, but
I know you do a lot of good videos on
the EU. I mean, Britain. Yeah,
British politics.
British politics is fascinating. Like, I couldn't go into the day-to-day stuff. I can only go into the British governmental stuff from a federal level because that's the level where I pay attention to it. But it's funny. Their fights. The fights that they're having is similar to the fight that Sanders was having with Vaught, where he's like, yeah, but just because you're giving a certain amount, even if that amount is a little bit more than last year, you understand how inflation works, and you understand that the amount you're giving is not going to overcome inflation. Not just that, it's going to be less than, what you were given before. And that's kind of the arguments Theresa May has with Corbyn. Theresa May would say, well, we gave the National Health Service $2 billion extra, and Corbyn will come on, but is that $2 billion extra required to run the National Health Service? Meaning, if the National Health Service was running in an ideal way, would you need $2 billion or would you need $5 billion? You might need $5 billion. So you giving them $2 billion more is somewhat irrelevant to the process if it's not what they need to make it work. But she will make that argument continuously all the time. That's essentially what they're saying. It's like, we're giving them $500 million. Yeah, but what if it needs $2 trillion to work? You're not, you're essentially killing the system.
Darren O'Levy says, Jamal, please look at videos online of Labour politicians in the first UK referendum to join the EU in 1975.
Oh, Tony Benn.
Yeah. Corbyn's political father opposed the EU.
Yeah.
Corbyn and Galloway were Benn's sons.
Tony Benn supporters. Yeah. I've watched, believe it or not, I've watched weird stuff like that. Yeah. Now, I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen some of it. I've heard Galloway. I've listened to more Galloway videos than any person should own up to. It's just, I love the guy. He would never come on my show. I love the guy. He said he was going to come on my show.
He tried.
I tried multiple times. I even made a video.
I was going to say, there's even a specific
video that I made begging him.
Pleading
him. On here, shaming myself vigorously in front of the British flag, begging Galloway to come onto the show. I even practiced
Maybe you should have begged in front of the United States flag.
I don't think I had the British flag. I think I'm being dramatic.
Oh.
But I practiced my R's, though.
That's probably why he didn't come on, because he heard you talking about that.
It's a power grab. Power grab. That's Scottish as all hell. I practiced that on a video where the Scottish was talking about it being a power grab that Theresa May wouldn't have a conversation about the Brexit stuff. Power grab. He's been aggraved. And I'm trying to think of words.
He probably watching right now like, I'm glad I didn't do that shit.
He's like, that motherfucker. I'm not going on this show at all. Yeah, that's sad.
Slow News Day says, much love, bro, but keep practicing.
I know, right? I know. I'm trying.
No, don't keep practicing.
Don't
encourage that.
All right, and for the last one, I was accosted on Twitter by Samir Khan. Now, this shocked me because I didn't know Samir Khan even knew I was alive.
Okay, can I say something really quick?
Oh, wait, by the way, take a look at this.
Is that Fred Edwards?
It is.
Yes! I saw him say he got his shirt where it looks exactly like it does online.
Wait, is this? I don't know if this is Fred Edwards.
Who else? Come on, man. They said where? Come on, that's got to be Fred. Okay. I mean, I don't know. Fred, is that you? Where are you, Fred? He was here in the chat. And he kept saying, I got my shirt.
I got my shirt. I love it.
Thanks for all
it looks
the
good,
great
right?
info and analysis, Jamal and Mrs. JLT.
That looks good.
That's gotta be Fred.
I love that shirt.
So if you guys didn't know, there are a bunch of Progressive Soapbox shirts available. I had one on in our last show.
Yeah, you did.
That said, all right, guys, I'm going to end it here. Check out the t-shirt store. The link should be in the description box below. If not,
it is.
He'll put, okay, it is below.
We've been trying to expand into
Yeah.
the t-shirts. We've been trying to expand into the other channels. I have somebody reworking the looks of this channel. And I have someone reworking the looks of another channel that I'm working on, that when I hit my 20,000 State of the Union show.
We are about 450 subscribers, or he is. Jamal's about 450 subscribers away from 20,000. So if you guys have ideas for what to do for the 20,000 show, I said a live stream marathon. That's maybe with like a call-in segment. I can come on. I know this is basically a marathon.
Yeah.
But I think this is kind of good timing because it's like all of this stuff is probably going to be launched right around the same time that you hit the 20K.
Yeah.
So he's been putting in a lot of time. I've been sleeping alone a lot lately. The dogs are being neglected. He's been in this room holed up a lot, working on graphics and channel ideas and expanding the channel and giving back to you guys and doing things that he think you would enjoy. So it'll come together. It looks really good. But yeah, there are new t-shirts that are added. You're going to see some new graphics on the channel, a new channel entirely.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
Stay tuned for more updates.
Alrighty.
So, Garden Gnome says he might get a shirt. If you get a shirt, send us a picture.
Yeah.
So far,
I've seen somebody else's picture. I think, oh God, who gave me a picture?
I know Wesley sent a picture when we sent
Wesley
sent one in the beginning.
If I'm not mistaken, Balthazar. I thought Balthazar was someone.
Yeah, if you guys get a t-shirt, send us a picture so we can share it. That's pretty cool. Darren Alevi says, Jamal, call in on Galloway's Friday Talk Radio show. UK 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. UK time. I thought you called in before.
I've tried to.
Darren, can you send us a link to that show so that he can check that out?
It's not Talk Sport. It's like Talk Radio.
He says it's Friday Talk Radio.
Okay.
But yeah, so
I'll see if I can watch it online.
Yeah.
Oh wait, but I don't know if they have that online live. I mean, not on Twitter, on YouTube, but I can find it. I'll find it.
Can you show them the Charlie Brown images? Is that too much? So one of the things, because they were talking about Garden Gnome saying he might get a shirt. He doesn't usually buy merchandise, but some of them are looking pretty cool. He got a graphic of him looking like a Charlie Brown character sitting on top of a soapbox. I like it. I want it on a shirt. Has that been put on a shirt yet?
No, not yet. I need to figure out what that's going to look like.
That will be on a shirt. And I will wear that as soon as I get it. If you are a woman ordering a shirt from the t-shirt store and you are voluptuously bodied as myself, order a size up. Because I will tell you, that shirt I had on last week was a 3X and it was like...
It was tight.
It was not forgiving at all. So size up if you are buying out of the women's section. You can always order from the men's, but the women's has a more feminine cut, I guess. I don't know. What are we looking at?
I'm trying to find the shirt.
So yeah, check out the t-shirts if you're interested in that kind of thing. The graphic. So this is the new one. I love that thing. That's so cool. Can I tell them about my?
I'm not sure how I'm going to use it.
I think it's so cool. But I think it would be good on a t-shirt.
I think it would be cool.
I think you could just put that on a t-shirt and I would wear that.
It would like the Progressive Soapbox.
It has Progressive Soapbox on the soapbox.
I need to find a cool way to put the logo for like YouTube, to show that people on YouTube, and maybe put it on the back of the shirt. But see, that might drive up the cost of the shirt.
Yeah. They're good. I mean, the shirts are really... The shirts are nice. The quality is really good. Like, the only thing that I had to say about it was they run a little small.
I would say the expense. I don't like them
paying the expense.
If there was
we would like for you guys to get a t-shirt for like $5, but the problem is, as we learned in the beginning, when we try to do t-shirts, doing them at home is not really sustainable because I suck at it.
Yeah.
And it would take a lot for us to make t-shirts from the house. And this was, I think, the best option that we found.
Doing it. The problem is her getting the order. Like, this Spreadshirts has everything. Like, it's one-stop shopping where you go.
You pick it out, they mail it and everything. He's completely hands-off. We're hands-off, which means it's sustainable. The problem is you are paying for that work. Yeah. And so the shirts are like $20. They have sales and stuff. And I think you said you were going to try to reach out to get a coupon code that we can give away, like for patron appreciation shows.
If what's her name ends up getting something, even if it's like a WordPress site, I'll switch it over to her.
That's fine, but we'll talk about that.
That's one of those things for right now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But we're always trying to expand and try to get better.
Yeah. So,
you ready? Is that it?
That's it. So, can I do a patron spiel one more time?
Go for it.
So thanks you guys for watching. We're at 168 people. I guess we're wrapping up now. We had 3 hours in. It's 4:30.
Yeah. How many do we have? I thought we had 2-something.
I think one time we got up to like 300. I think we just at about 200. No, not today. Like on the other show. I think we got up to about 200 people. So if you didn't hear the spiel before, of course, this is a patron appreciation show. This is the one weekly show that is fueled by your content. And once this video is finished, it will be taken down from YouTube and it will be exclusive patron content. So you will only be able to see this after this show if you are a patron. If you're not a patron, consider becoming one. It just takes a donation as little as $1 a month and you get all this good stuff that we're adding to the channel and all that stuff. And so if you are a patron, make sure if you're late to the show that you log in. Just play it in the background and watch the video.
Lord
we've
Glenny,
covered some good topics.
Please make a shirt with Jamal's famous quote, just saying.
Just saying.
Just saying.
He's got a lot of stuff that he says on the channel a lot. Yeah. So
I ain't saying this, but I'm just saying. Just saying just works so well. It's like, it gets across like, I don't mean no harm. I'm not trying to insult. I'm not trying to injure.
I'm just saying.
Just saying. Just saying. I love that. Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, I don't have anything else, so I'm going to say thank you all for joining us for this Patron Appreciation Special. We are going to get better with these, and we're going to grow as this kind of just evolved naturally, so we're trying to catch up with Evolve. Told you
Comey was a
scapegoat. Comey was a scapegoat. That's what it looks like, right? I mean, because the first thing that came out was, oh, Comey didn't do a real investigation.
Oh, sorry, I was reading a comment. Skip Rock sounds like a hater. Skip Rock says, hey, future patron people watching this. Crap, where did it go? Watching this and reading the chat replay. Up yours. I take it Skip Rock is not a patron, so he's mad that people are going to be watching this later. He does. Okay, Jamal does like 2 or 3 videos a day, at least, most days of the week. And those are available all over. He has been cutting some of this Q&A at the end of a show to drop in for patron only, like the after show kind of talk that, like what we're doing now. But I would say that most of his content is completely, not backed by big money. Like it doesn't have anything to do with donations. So one day out of the week, one show out of the week for patrons and to show appreciation. I think that's cool.
Yeah. And even that show is available for the first time, like if a person showed up.
Right, it's live. Like we could, Skip Rock could be recording this and not even putting it on YouTube. We could just be recording it and putting it straight to Patreon. So,
You tell him.
That's right.
You learned him something.
That's right.
All right. We're going to end this here. Guys, I really do appreciate you guys coming on to the show or checking out the show while we're available. I love the live shows. I always have a fun time with these shows. Which is why this is far less formal than my other shows. We just kind of shoot the shit and talk about anything that comes up, and maybe call-ins would be a good idea. I mean, you lose a certain degree of control with call-ins because they can go anywhere, but you always have the capacity to shut the person off if if it's going in a weird place. Have Skip Rock called in before? I don't know if Skip called in.
Skip Rock, have you called in before?
Siler called in. He's called in. He was talking about some crazy stuff that day. All right. I mean, we have to isolate them to like 5 minutes each.
I can help with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with
like, all right,
time management. All right, he cut him. He's cut in 30 seconds. Disconnected. 29 second countdown, and he's going to be disconnected. from the Google
it's like
chat.
He's in the middle of, well, clip. Sorry, dude. Pass your time.
Yeah, Trudy, check us out later on Patreon. If you guys aren't donating, of course, if you're donating, that's great. But if not, we understand. Make sure that you subscribe, share, and hit the bell icon that's down there somewhere to make sure that you get the notifications when they come through YouTube. Hit the like button so that we know if you like the content. Commenting is always nice. We like to see the comments.
Like so awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you all very much. I will see you guys. I don't know if I'm going to see you later today. It's probably going to be Monday. Yeah.
We're supposed to be going to the movies tonight, so you'll see him tomorrow.
Yeah, it's probably going to be tomorrow. You all have a good one. Thanks all.
Good night.
And we are...